to the Dawn English elections transmission. Results have started coming in, polling is closed, and we have to sort of remind everybody that the results that are coming in are provisional and not official. This has been Pakistan's 12th general election, most expensive, biggest in terms of the number of registered voters as well, but also potentially the most bizarre or the most controversial in the last decade or so. So what have been sort of the top headlines that have sort of featured across the day today? The biggest one was obviously the mobile service shutdown that the caretaker government had assured yesterday that these services would not be shut down. But in case there are security situations, it's possible. But we got the news early in the morning. A lot of voters had trouble getting to their polling stations or knowing where the polling stations was because they couldn't SMS at the 8300 number with their CNIC. So that's one of the sort of big headlines. The other big headline has been violence and security. We saw some violence attacks last night as well, and then today. And then the big question, what's the turnout been now like? So more on the headlines with Hassan Bilal Zaidi, who's the news editor for Dawn. Hassan, talk us through the day. You've obviously spoken to reporters and bureau chiefs. What has been the turnout like? What's the mood?
So it's really hard to make an exact call on what the numbers are. I personally fear that it might be a lower turnout because from what I've seen in Karachi and from what I've been hearing from in the provinces, there's a mixed sense. So, you know, it wasn't very happening. It wasn't like so mela nahi tha. Yani, you know, right. that festivity, that fervor you associate with the elections, it wasn't there. You know, usually you could tell a polling station from a mile away. You know, there'd be a crowd outside, there'd be polling agents for every party, you know, colors would be out, stalls lage honge, and, you know, people getting their purchase made. That was really missing this time around, especially, you know, on the streets of Karachi where I've been out on. But then you hear from Islamabad, for instance, or you hear from Lahore, where they're like, yes, the polling staff was very cooperative, there was good turnout, especially in the highly densely populated areas, the city centers.
And that's obviously where we get those pictures and videos from at first, right? That's the first look that you get of the turnout in the elections, which is from urban areas. But the story elsewhere is probably different.
Yes, so generally there is a sense of trepidation among, you know, voters in certain areas. Obviously, as you mentioned, the security situation, we had yesterday's deplorable attacks in Balochistan. That really has shaken people, you know, so there are certain people, families, elderly people, women who have been reluctant to go out and vote for fear of, you know, reprisals or fear of some sort of electoral violence or getting caught up in the moment. And, you know, a lot of people have also been reluctant to go out and vote because they felt they might be identified as voters of a certain party and, you know, be either prevented from voting or, you know, fall prey to violence. So those factors have come into play this time around.
And you think that, I mean, did you vote, by the way?
My vote is in Lahore.
Okay, I didn't vote because my vote is in Islamabad, but you voted.
My vote is in Karachi, but let's say I wasn't allowed to vote. Let's put it this way. So my polling station, voting did not start till 3 p.m. And people were waiting. This is NA 236.
Right, yeah.
So people were waiting since like 8 a.m. You had a lot of people, like at least 1,000 plus people who were just basically queued up and ready to vote, but voting did not start till 3 p.m. And apparently when it did start, some votes got cancelled, something got happened, and basically no one in that area was able to vote.
So you wanted to vote, but you couldn't vote?
I wanted to vote, but I couldn't vote. And just like me, there were 1,000, 2,000 maybe other people who wanted to vote, but could not vote.
So the big story also, just prior to the elections, was that obviously the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf is, you know, under fire. It's struggling. Turnout will matter because there's a lot of new young voters. About, you're the numbers guy, so around 1.5 million, I think, new voters. There's more women voting as well. So that's why turnout is important. But I think that there are a lot of these reports about polling stations not being open in time. Obviously, we've already talked about the SMS service not being open because mobile services were shut down. I mean,
So there's
Would
there's
this
this.
point of voter suppression?
I would say it's phased disenfranchisement.
Okay.
In which I don't know if that's the right word here. It's phased disenfranchisement. First, you take up with a symbol, and that's basically an identifier. No one really knows the candidate in this part of the world. Who's the candidate? You just go and vote for kite, or you vote for the tiger, or you vote for something else. If you vote for a symbol, you don't vote for the person. Or you vote for a person, but that person is associated with the symbol. So it's like that. When you take that symbol away, people don't really know what they're voting for, and someone's symbol is a laptop in an area where no one's ever seen a laptop. Someone's symbol is a dove, while another person's symbol is a bird, is a sparrow. So you just don't know. There's so much confusion that is instilled in the whole process. And then you're not even allowed to campaign. And people campaign, people don't campaign. Just a lot of confusion there. Instead of a more, let's say, streamlined process of understanding, okay, I'm voting for this, people just don't know who they're voting for. And on the final day, when mobile networks are shut down, that's basically the final, I would say, nail in the coffin, for lack of a better word, where people just don't know who to vote for and where to go to vote.
Which is really key, right? If you don't know where to go. And by the way, there's a lot of people who would be saying, well, you should have found out the day before. Why are you waiting until the last minute? But I think the whole point of the SMS service and the whole point of well, I've decided to vote and I need to go out and vote, whatever time it is to make it easier for the voter,
even
right?
if you know where, let's say, I knew where my polling station was, pretty simple. But let's say my other people, in fact, my members in my family, like some government boys school XYZ place. How do you get there? Do you know where that's located? You don't. Until you got like,
maps, right?
you cannot. Because
Exactly,
networks
because
are
the
not.
networks are down.
So you just don't know where to go at this point.
I have a question. I feel like you're the numbers guy, you're the economist. Because my sense is, so the Election Commission of Pakistan has spent a lot of money on the SMS service, promoting the SMS service, and actually working with a lot of social media companies, for instance, in the run-up to the elections to promote voter information for voters, which includes how you know where to vote.
Yeah.
How much money do you think that they would have spent?
I mean, one
any guesses?
ballpark estimate, one SMS costs you around like ₹1 per SMS. There are 200 million internet subscribers in the country. Everyone's been getting these reminders. People send these push messages as well.
Yeah.
So even if there's been like 5 messages over the last many months, that's easily about like 500 million to ₹1 billion, depending on how much messages you send. So that's about a good, at least ₹1 billion expense just on SMS service, which never really worked out in the end.
So a waste of a lot of money. But Hassan, so my other sense here is, because I think one of the key sort of questions, as I sort of said in the beginning as well, is turnout is going to be important. The assumption is that there'll be the enraged Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf supporter or the defiant or resist, who would go out and vote, which is why turnout is key. The other reason that the assumption is that turnout would favor the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf is that a lot of young people and women are now voting, and they're possibly more likely to be PTI supporters. Could you talk us through some of the sort of turnout percentages that we've seen in the last few elections? Because 2013 was higher than 2018. The lowest was 1997. And a lot of us have now, I've been betting on what the turnout would be now.
As I said, I think turnout this time might be low, but there's reasons for that. Just to add to what Ammar's been saying, some anecdotes from today.
Right.
My wife, her sisters, and their mother went to vote at the same polling station. It was a women's polling station. It was on the first floor, so the elderly mother had to walk up a flight of steps. She's 77, and she was told by the.
No sort of ramp.
There's no ramp. There's no ramps.
This is actually a multiple cases where a lot of polling stations are on the first floor.
Because they're not built to purpose, right? There are schools, there are colleges, there are clinics, there are different places, and
government buildings.
Exactly, and so that's just the beginning. The polling, the person who issues the ballot papers said, "Nahi, aapka yahan nahi hai. Your vote isn't here. Please go." They turned them back. My wife had to literally take the register from her, flip a few pages, and said, "Listen, all of us are right here." And then they're like, "Okay, fine, you can go vote." There was an elderly disabled person who was unable to walk. Their wheelchair was parked at the bottom of the steps for 2 hours. He got there at 7:45 in the morning, and he was waiting for 2 hours. Nobody would help him get up the stairs. Then, blind people, their assistants are not being allowed in with them, so they have to like hold on to the banister and go up, or other people are helping them up. I mean, it's a really sorry state of affairs. So accessibility was definitely not there.
Right.
Then you have people who know what their block code is in advance, who know what their
or who've also bothered to,
send the SMS early on, right? They've got their information, they have their perchi,
they
everything.
know who they want to vote for and what their symbol is.
Sure.
In case.
They get to the polling station. At the gate, they're told there is no polling station here. This happened in education, private educational institutions especially, which were enlisted as polling centers. This is a big complaint from them. This is across the country, in Islamabad as well as Karachi. Then you have the case of a single family. The father is voting in Safuragod, the mother is voting in Liaqatabad. It's like two parts of the, of the country.
So just to clarify, because you're automatically, it's linked to your permanent address on your CNIC, correct? Yes?
Yeah.
And you are automatically, obviously, assigned a polling station based on the permanent address that's on your seat.
It's the silsila number, it's the block code, right? If you are part of the same family unit, technically there is no reason why you should be in different
this
areas.
Happened in my case as well. My vote was somewhere in
I just have a
South
question here because I want to understand this, because people will change their residence. Sometimes they're living somewhere else, or their permanent residence is somewhere else, or you could also potentially change where you're supposed to vote in advance.
So there's two things. If you don't, by default, it defaults to your permanent address,
Exactly.
number one,
Exactly.
unless you get it changed. In some cases, we've seen that, there are people like myself, for instance, I had to get my vote changed to my Lahore address,
Right.
because it was initially in some other part of Lahore.
Right.
And this is way back in 2013, and thankfully since then, because I updated my vote, so my polling station has been in the same constituency.
Yeah, my polling station has been in the same constituency for ever since I've started voting, which is a very long time ago because I'm very old. But I haven't had that problem with my family or anybody else. It's the same. I sort of recheck today.
See, but that's the point about the disparate experiences. Mila jula radde amal, like in Lahore, you'll find things went swimmingly. In Islamabad, you'll find things went swimmingly.
Karachi has been
Karachi has been really, like, it's been, and even within Karachi, so inner city areas which are really heavily populated have better experiences than the peripheries. Like District South, for example, where you have DHA and Clifton. In Bahria town, the polling center कायम किया गया, and people were told, the block code was sent to them, the SMS was sent to them, and when they reached the gate, they were told, there is no voting here, this is not a polling center, please go away. So, I mean, how are those people going to vote then? As Ammar said, his polling agent, the presiding officer showed up at 3. One of our colleagues took, so they went to...
That's beyond Pakistan's...
No, it gets better. It gets better. One of our colleagues, she and her husband went to vote. She went to the women's polling station, cast a vote, came out half an hour. The husband, his polling station never opened because the presiding officer never showed up. They waited till 5.
So another thing here, I mean, if you go back a week or 10 days, I had a few friends who were presiding officers in the previous elections.
Right.
They were of the view that their training and everything started a month earlier than the elections. This time around, it only started 4 to 5 days back.
It was literally so the
Weeks before.
Yeah. Exactly, weeks before. There's also a court case, if you remember. Their training had started, I think, in December, and then there was the Lahore High Court, I think the Pakistan had challenged the polling staff, and then they had to restart it. By the way, another waste of money, because there's a lot of money that goes into those trainings, not just the SMSs.
So, I mean, the whole, I would say, in tech, we say user experience. The voter experience is basically, it is the worst.
So would you say that the user experience for the voter was not Netflix but cable TV?
It's worse than cable TV. I guess it's PTV at this point. I mean, it just makes sense now.
Okay, and I think we're pretty much clear that it's not a one-off. Can we say that there is a pattern here, Hassan? Because I think there is a deliberate pattern towards voter suppression.
I mean, if you wanted to sound really optimistic and naive about it, you could say this is what Pakistan's like every time, right? But we know better. So obviously there is a degree of incompetence and lack of capacity.
Which will be in pockets,
Which
right?
is always there.
Which is always
Which is the
there.
base level, which is always there.
But
And also in pockets.
And it's a baseline. You expect a bit of incompetence here and there, and that's fine.
But there is a sense now, especially, and as you said in your opening remarks, this has the potential of being a very controversial election, especially if the results go wrong. If the RTS, if the EMS fails, at any point, it could all go really south.
So let's talk about the election management system, because the Election Commission of Pakistan has been at great pains to explain to everybody that in case mobile services are shut down and Wi-Fi goes, there is an alternative system, which is basically taking the results physically to your presiding officer and then eventually central command, central sort of monitoring.
This is a
center.
lovely explanation. Ammar, you're the tech
No,
guy.
because by the way, I was imagining. No, I want to say that I was imagining the polling staffs like baikiya karto. रिजल्ट को बाइकिया करते हैं.
I'll paint you an even better picture. ठीक है ना? पीछे Arabian Nights का music लगा होगा. ठीक है? A camel will be walking across the desert. Amaran's polling station, presiding officer will be going to the provincial election commission office.
No, I was imagining Pakistan से कैसे पहुंचे.
No,
Polio vaccine.
This is the thing, right? Like, so first of all, the contention. We, one of our journalists did a great story on how the EMS works. They grilled the ECP people. The explanation that they had was that they had their own intranet. उन्होंने अपनी केबलें बिछाई हुई हैं, which is impossible. Why would the ECP lay fiber for just this one thing? That would cost more than your GDP.
Yeah,
in order to connect an intranet system, you need internet connectivity. How will results get from Amaran to Islamabad otherwise?
I want to insert here that there were a few, I think Faisal Javed Khan, Senator of PTI, who was actually appealing to Elon Musk as well.
For Starlink.
For Starlink.
He didn't give Starlink to Gaza, you think he'd give Starlink to Pakistan?
No, to PTI. But
To PTI, to Pakistan.
So the election management system, there is apparently, the ECP claims, let's just be very clear, that there is some kind of intranet, which we have doubts about. But at the same time, the other option is the old-fashioned way, which is essentially that you would take it physically. And I want to say, according to the law as well, that these results have to be submitted to central ECP monitoring. The ECP
within a certain time frame, yeah.
2 a.m. by the way, the next day. That is actually. But I'm going to sort of zoom back a little bit. We've talked about these details, which is that we know that the result transmission system collapsed.
In 2018.
In 2018.
In 2013, it was the RMS. The management system collapsed in 2013.
So it always collapses, clearly?
It's not even working this time, so nothing needs to collapse now.
No, that's right, because we're on camels.
No, but we're in the information black hole right now, no? Because we're still not out of the mobile shutdown. A lot of areas are still experiencing that. And so you don't even know what's happening in a lot of cases. So right now, as we speak, there could have been an incident of violence that we're not aware about. So we're essentially sitting ducks here.
Thanks for the assurance, Hassan. I'm not scared. Okay, I want to go back to turnout a little, because I know that we don't know where the results have started coming in. A few polling stations, that means somewhere some results are getting transmitted essentially.
Yes.
Journalists have been able to do their job. Have there been any? I haven't heard of any reports of journalists not being able to monitor the counting process. If you have the observer card, if you have the, if you're accredited by the Election Commission of Pakistan. The interesting difference I also want to point out between the 2018 election and this election is that law enforcement, which includes obviously police as well as military personnel, are not allowed inside the polling station, which was not the case in 2018, if you remember. So that's another key difference. But in many other ways, this is 2018 multiplied, I would say.
I mean, there are obviously similarities, because it's the same country, it's the same people running the process.
Techniques and tactics, those would be
2018, you still had a sense of people coming out to vote, and there weren't as many instances or anecdotal evidence of people being denied the right to franchise on frivolous excuses.
Right.
They actually made the effort. In those cases, that's, if you remember, even before these polls, they recently said that you can vote on an expired CNIC.
Yes.
Now, that's unfair to people like, for instance, prisoners who are supposed to post postal ballots because they weren't allowed to vote on expired CNICs.
Right.
So there's disenfranchisement across the process.
In many, many ways. So we're talking about disabled people who, in all ways. Okay, all right. So given all of this conversation, I want to go back to turnout and numbers. The lowest turnout was in 1997.
97.
Yeah, and I think
36%.
36%. Do you think this will be lower?
Yeah, I think we'll be close to that. I mean, we've been talking about it, and we keep revising down our numbers depending on our experiences. Last time we were around between 45 and 50.
Yesterday I was in the 40s.
Yeah,
and
now
up
we're
until
just
the afternoon.
saying it would be less than 40%. Because it's entirely possible less than 40%. Because we knew that there won't be a lot of turnout anyway. And if you just go out on the streets and just look around, you don't see a lot of activity.
But there wasn't, even in the run-up to the elections.
There wasn't any.
I think we can. There is agreement across the
Yeah.
board that this was a very vanilla election campaign.
Yeah.
It started late. There was a lot of doubts and questions about whether the elections would happen, and I'm not even sure if that was not deliberate, by the way. Because that also is voter suppression in many ways. And political parties, given the sort of cases and sort of politics was being played out in the court, so we didn't know whether Pakistan Telecom would have a symbol or not. So last minute cases, convictions against Imran Khan, all kinds of shenanigans were happening. But also I think just in terms of turnout, if you look at it in blocks of history, so turnout tends to be high after military dictatorship, and then it ebbs and flows as people lose confidence as well. So is it just, do you think, let's just sort of your analysis here. Is it just because people lose confidence in the system, which is why you also see low turnout, or is that a deliberate strategy?
I think it's a bit of both,
Yeah.
but with this particular election, it's just the fact that the process has dragged on for so long. I mean, you remember Punjab and KP have been waiting for elections for well over a year.
I mean, it is absolutely,
it boggles the mind.
It is ridiculous that Punjab and KP have had a caretaker government for over a year.
And so, I mean,
Behaving.
the Supreme Court sort of gave the okay to the federal government, the national elections for the center, and also tacitly the KP and Punjab delays. But, I mean, if you look at it in a comparative way, KP and Punjab, major chunk of your population. I mean, we say flippantly that, the election is won and lost in Punjab, but we recently did region profiles on them. Just listing the amount of constituencies that are in Punjab takes an entire page of the newspaper, just listing them. So there really is a major chunk of the country in terms of population. And these guys have been denied a representative government elected by the people, of the people, whatnot. Boston Tea Party ho jani chahiye abhi tak to wahan par. But, so that hasn't been there. And people are sick of it, to be honest. I mean, they've been through so much. Even if somebody was not directly affected by the crackdown from last year, somebody who was affected, or a friend of a friend has been affected, and all those stories, they came to my house late at night and this happened and that happened, that adds to that trepidation, so people are afraid. Our correspondent Atika was recently in Gujranwala, and she spoke to a bunch of voters, after the Nawaz Sharif Jalsa, and one of them said, that's the quote we opened the story with, don't publish my picture, don't take my name. Then he thought for a bit, and then he's like, okay, no, do it. What else then are they going to do to me? That's the level of resignation people have. And these are hardcore, young, motivated supporters.
I think resignation worries me more than fear or outrage, because outrage means that you care and you think that you can still do something. It is the resignation that worries me.
Poet philosopher हमारे टाइम के शहजाद रॉय famously said, मुझे फिक्र ये नहीं है कि मुल्क ऐसे चल रहा है, मुझे फिक्र ये है कि ऐसे ही ना चलता रहे.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So Punjab and KP have had the longest sort of caretaker that I can think of in my memory as well. Which also means that So I think, okay, I want to talk about turnout a little bit more here. Let's sort of disaggregate it a little bit in the sense that the last election turnout was lower compared to 2018, but also just the differences in terms of, so the turnout in Punjab was fairly high.
Yeah.
I think it was above 60%. Low in KP, because obviously there were terrorist attacks still happening in KP at that time as well. Let's talk about who benefits, because there is that assumption that a high turnout would benefit PTI. It would also it wouldn't benefit the PMLN. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, explain.
So basically, I mean, higher turnout anywhere will benefit PTI. That's the thing. So that's why I think even in Karachi, we can see here, a lot of votes that are being suppressed, again, purely anecdotal. That's basically PTI votes or independent votes per se. So those are being affected. And whoever wants, let's say, to win in this vacuum,
right,
they take away whatever they have, a little bit of, let's say, turnout. In fact, if we're just disaggregating it, turnout in Karachi would be, I would say, it's always lower than the national average.
It is.
It's always lower than national average.
In the 30s, I believe.
It's always in the 30s. So this time
election.
it'll be even lower than 30 at this point, considering what has been happening, because people have barely stepped out of their houses, and even when they haven't been allowed to vote. So
exactly.
Karachi turnout would be very interesting. So it probably would be the lowest ever.
There's one more anecdotal evidence factor. Like a person I was speaking to, they were like, we went out to vote, we made it a point, and then we spoiled our ballot paper by writing our message of protest. So there's, that's the point that you've pushed the voter to, that they will spend the money.
Can I say that if you're going to spoil your ballot paper, nobody's going to read it. So I mean, I don't know what.
Sure, but it tells you the kind of the mentality that voters are approaching. To each their own.
To each their own. It's their form of protest. I would say in a country like Pakistan, I think it feels, because it's not a normal country, even going out to vote is an act of resistance of some sort, because I think that was the whole message that a lot of people also gave prior to the elections, that if you want to have some control over who comes into power next, you have to get out and vote. And we've seen these active ways to suppress the vote. But okay, so here's my other sort of the thing that I really want to talk about. Karachi is an interesting case study, right? Because Karachi, prior to 2016, MQM, this time around, and MQM London, for instance, boycotted the 2018 elections. Ataf Hussain boycotted the elections. This time around, they played
it really smart.
Yes.
They announced
which was split the MQM vote.
Yeah.
The MQM that boycotted the local bodies election is obviously looking to be in the game.
We had an editorial on that, MQM versus MQM. And it's so fascinating that, so the candidates were already there. Silently they had submitted their nomination papers as independents or affiliated with whatever party, and then like 2 days before polling day, MQM London Secretariat announces these are the candidates we're supporting.
Just 2 days, right?
Yeah. And so you can't take their names off the ballot. You can't really pick them up and make them disappear. So there's a lot of things that they sort of sidestepped with this move. But whether it's going to make any difference or not, I don't think.
You don't think it'll split the MQM vote? What about
it might spoil it.
Spoil it a bit, but then again, someone has to win, right?
Right.
There needs to be a winner. There needs to be a marginal winner. That will be MQM.
So, let me see. Let's
put it this way.
Exactly. MQM Pakistan. So MQM Pakistan in Karachi will benefit from.
Yes.
There's reasons for that. So one is the anti-PPP sentiment, anti-incumbency factor, I would rather say.
A little bit.
Plus, just the recent rains and, all those.
Oh yeah, that was
it rained on PPP's parade. But
that's why you're editor.
So, but there's another thing, right? Like I was speaking to a colleague just recently, and they said that the fact that all these anecdotal instances of voter suppression are coming up, it means that the MQM is being propped up.
Yes.
And the reason why I said it is, I'll add to it something my wife pointed out, that a lot of the people who come to vote as opposed to the more privileged class or the upper middle class, they are people whose entire survival depends on who comes up as the representative from their area.
Of course.
They're in it for कि जी उनकी कच्ची आबादी बन जाएगी, regularize हो जाएगी, they will get gas connections.
पानी मिल जाएगा.
It's those basic issues.
Basic needs.
But I want to say, okay, but what I've also seen, what Pakistan People's Party has done is that it has reached out to ethnicities in Karachi that have a sizable vote, which is the Pashtun vote, which would also be, I think, Baloch as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have Liari as well. So they've also, through the local bodies, they've expanded some of the reach in Karachi as well. You've had people like Said Ghani as well as Murtaza, as well as Qadir Khan Mandukhe, by the way, who've managed to expand Pakistan People's Party footprint in Karachi.
No, so you had Bilawal's, procession through Karachi a few days ago.
Last day of the
people,
campaign.
if you look at the footage, if you look at social media, people loved it. Okay, but and
No, I'm not what I don't know. We're not talking about social media. We're talking about the real stuff here. So, do you think? Here's my question now. Do you think, given that PTI will struggle just because of the challenges in voting, being able to vote in Karachi, we assume that because of it swept Karachi last time, there's a lot of sympathy and there seems to be a lot of support in Karachi as well. Do you think that the beneficiary would be MQM or Pakistan People's Party? You say MQM.
MQM.
That's your take on it.
I would say it's a bit hard
I
to
would
say.
say
It's hard to say.
I think it's a little bit of both, because I think the Pakistan People's Party will also benefit in some ways, given that they've got the political reach in multiple ethnicities and the infrastructure in place, given that they have it's their
So
middle
it's
as well.
all marginal at this point. So let's say it's Baldia.
Okay.
For example, Baldia has always been an MQM stronghold.
Yeah.
And last time around, I think Faisal Wada won that.
Yes.
So that is one area where MQM might lose out and People's Party may take over. So it's just one of those areas where People's Party's been winning some provincial seats that may translate into a more national representation. So yes, they may grab some, but considering how MQM barely did any campaigning.
Yes.
There's a reason for that. Shahbaz Sharif wanted to run from that seat,
From
and
that
then he
seat,
pulled out
yeah.
at the last
Yeah.
minute.
He pulled out at the last
and
minute.
that particular
That's because
constituency,
there was a lot of Mustafa Kamal really
Yes.
wanted
Mustafa
that seat.
Kamal was very peeved off by that,
Yes.
so he very reluctantly agreed कि seat adjustment की खातिर. But also that particular constituency has been severely redrawn.
Yeah.
Now it's connected to site area. And if you look at it on the electoral map, there's like a big squig that
big
goes,
squig,
it's a big deviation. And so, some of our colleagues who are...
Gerrymandering.
No, listen, legally we cannot say that gerrymandering has indeed taken place, but if it looks like gerrymandering, quacks like gerrymandering,
So yes, People's Party will get some. MQM will get more
So let's just
than
say,
what it bargained for,
with
I guess.
whatever is happening with the PTI and PTI
There is no
voters,
PTI.
There's no PTI. All right.
PTI backed independent candidates.
PTI back. There's no
Mouthful, it's a
PTI.
mouthful, I can't say it. I'm going to say PTI. But okay, so MQM will benefit a lot, and I think that the People's Party will also benefit a lot from this. What about the Jamaat-e-Islami? Because let's not forget, they ran a hard campaign. I mean, a couple of things that I will say that Hafiz's name, local bodies, they got a sizable number of votes as well, campaign hard. There's also a lot of people who supported him, right? I also see a lot of ex-PTI, probably more religious-minded as well, who've actually decided they would rather vote for JI as well. Would
I
JI
think
benefit from this
They may grab
absence?
a lot of PTI seats in the provincial assembly. So a lot of PTI.
So provincial.
Provincial. I don't think it'll barely. If they even win one national, I will be surprised. Provincial, yes.
I think JI does appeal to the middle class segment in Karachi, with aspirational people, and especially those who are sick of things, like, the anti-incumbency factor being one of them. Also, those people who are, it's the religio-political mix, it's a heady mix. So, there are people who would be swayed by it, and I wouldn't blame them, because a lot of people have memories of Nimatullah Khan's tenure when he was Nazim in Karachi. And we forget sometimes that pre-Mustafa Kamal, a lot of the development, the Lahorization of Karachi, the underpasses and all of that, it was Jamaat-e-Islami.
I've forgotten that.
Yeah.
But, okay, so let's talk
It's
about
been
the
20
religious
years
vote.
since then. At this point, so I think again we're all old enough. That people don't know that. That's the
It
point.
betrays our age.
That's first-time voter. That's first-time voter. Doesn't know this.
Those who are 40 at that point are 60
but
now.
Hafiz's name has appealed to the youth vote, right?
I don't know
Look at his
how,
campaign
but-
thing. Look at
He
his
shows up on
campaign
my
thing.
YouTube ads,
Yeah.
okay?
Yes.
So he's reaching me, and I am not a consumer.
Just as a
There you go.
sidebar, I want to say a sidebar. So some of the campaigning that I feel has been targeted at me as somebody who lives in Karachi, doesn't have the vote in Karachi, is I've gotten Pakistan People's Party candidate specific Mia Tukhar from my constituency where I live actually. So that's been targeted campaiging on
SMS?
YouTube.
Oh, YouTube. Yeah,
YouTube.
okay.
Hafiz's name is general, so not the candidate, but Hafiz's name in general. Jamaat-e-Islami की अपनी candidate की भी मुझे specific मिली. So two kinds of ads that have been, I feel like have been targeted at me from Jamaat-e-Islami and Pakistan People's Party. PTI was very generic, it was Imran Khan. So smart campaigning by JI. Appealing to the
I'll do you one better. People around me in my circle have been getting SMSs with their names and everything and saying, oh, please vote for us and
Yeah.
we know you're our voter. I mean, that's breach of data privacy, yaar.
Yeah. We
I think we have bigger problems at this point.
Exactly, I was going to say that. Forget about privacy. We live in Pakistan.
We live in Pakistan. It's
But
just,
okay,
yeah.
I want to close this because I've been told that we're supposed to move on a little bit because I think the religious vote in terms of Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan is also key in Karachi as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Did very well comparatively in 2018. But
I
now
think
they
two seats, right?
No, that's really well. That's
Sure.
exactly.
But,
Did well. But do you think post Khadim Hussain Rizvi, Saad Rizvi in charge, do you think they're going to sort of...
So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
They've lost that major charisma point
Yes.
with Khadim had.
Yes.
But Saad is more savvy. He's been expanding and
They've got the street power.
yeah.
They have street power. And I'm just saying, whatever PTI
So you
loses,
see a repeat of the success?
maybe
of-
even more,
or
because
expansion?
PTI will be losing a number of provincial seats. Those are up for grabs there.
Yeah, okay, all right.
The religion card is hard to argue against.
All right. Thank you so much, Hassan. We got a sense of what's been happening and Ammar. And we're going to take a little bit of a break now in which Don English is running some of these fantastic videos that will give you a sense of the constituencies and delimitation that Hassan was talking about, among others. So stay tuned and keep watching.
I want to be in jail so that I cannot contest elections.
Once stuck,
In
his establishment's
1988, Mr.
white
Bilawal
boy,
was a
former Prime
born
Minister
into
Imran
political
Khan, finds
dynasty.
himself on the sideline.
Yet his journey
With
to
his
politics
nomination
was
efforts for the
by the mother
2021 general
being
elections
and
rejected,
grandfather
and his party in disarray. Born in Lahore in 1952,
Mr. Bilawal
Mr. Khan
upbringing
rose to
saw
fame
him
as a
spend
cricketer,
most of his childhood
leading the
outside
national side,
dividing his
its
time
only
between
ODI
London
World
as his
Cup
mother
victory
made
in
himself
1990.
exile from 19
After retiring, he
December
founded the
2007,
Pakistan
ahead of general
in
elections.
1996.
It is time for
Mr. Bilawal
fresh faces to
assumed
come into
leadership
Pakistani politics.
It wasn't
Though his
until
studies
2011
kept him
that
from
he
full-time
gained political
engagement.
traction
His
by
father
appealing to
passed
youth,
away
disillusioned by
from
corruption and unemployment. Following the 2013 elections, Mr. Khan alleged widespread rigging, leading a months-long sit-in in Islamabad in protest.
I am thankful to the CEC for reposing their trust in me as chairman of the Pakistan People's Party. Like all chairmen of the PPP, I will stand as the symbol of federation.
But he
The
called
party's
it off
long
after
and
his
historic
death
struggle
attack
for
on
democracy
army
will
publicist
continue
in
with
Peshawar.
renewed
Mr. Khan's
vigor.
popularity continued to
I
rise
stand
ahead of the
committed to the
2018
stability
elections,
of the
so much
Federation.
so that he was
My
dubbed as
mother
the
always
Prime
said,
Minister in waiting.
democracy is the
Albeit
best
with
revenge.
some help from the powerful
made
party.
his political debut
Following a controversial
with an
victory in the
emotionally
2018
charged
general
speech
elections,
commemorating the
he
50th
formed a
anniversary.
coalition government and took oath as the country's 22nd Prime Minister on 18th of August 2018.
वज़ीर आज़म पाकिस्तान मैं अपने फ़राइज़ दस्तूर और कानून के मुताबिक के दस्तूर और कानून के मुताबिक अंजाम दूंगा
Elected on promises to ensure
I bow my
accountability
head
and create a social welfare
in
state,
gratitude
Mr.
before
Khan
Almighty
soon found
Allah
himself besieged by serious
that
challenges,
I have been
including the
blessed with the
COVID-19 pandemic,
opportunity to be a
unprecedented
member of this
inflation,
august
rising
house.
deficits, as well as differences with his own allies. His relations with the military establishment, which his rivals claimed had brought him to power, also soured, with the standoff between the government and the military leadership over the appointment of a new spy master in October 2021. To oust him from power, opposition parties joined forces and launched the Pakistan Democratic Movement, popularly known as the PTM, which soon tabled a no-confidence vote in the National Assembly. After some members of his party dissented during the no-confidence vote, Mr. Khan's premiership came to an end shortly after the clock struck midnight on 10th of April 2020. Subsequently, Mr. Khan directed his party members to resign from their seats in the National Assembly and announced the dissolution of the provincial assemblies in Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in a bid to force early elections. But that tactic did not work. Increasingly frustrated, Mr. Khan lashed out at the United States and the former army chief Qamar Javed Bajwa, accusing them of conspiring against him. In the months following his removal from the office, the former PTI chairman managed to evade arrest several times in a slew of cases.
He was banned from entering this country until he
in which he was accused of illegally selling state gifts. On 9th of May 2023, Mr. Khan was arrested from the premises of Islamic Judicial Complex in the Al-Qadr Trust case, with violent protests erupting immediately afterwards. The violence, which was called as a black chapter by the military, lasted for 2 days as enraged PTI supporters came out on the streets and also attacked military installations, including the Lahore commander's residence. The state's reaction was swift, with several PTI leaders arrested in the following days, some of whom remain in jail. While Mr. Khan was subsequently released on bail on the orders of the Supreme Court, the party's downfall has been
Bilawal also in jail so that I cannot protest elections.
He was arrested again on 5th of August in the Tosha Khana case, in which he was convicted and sentenced to 3 years. He was also disqualified by the Legitimation of Pakistan and stripped of his party judge. The Islamabad High Court later suspended his sentence, but Mr. Khan remains in jail while facing other cases, including the Cypher case, in which he and party president Shahzeb Qureshi are accused of violating the Official Secret Act. Mr. Khan filed nomination papers for 2 National Assembly seats for the upcoming elections, one from Lahore and one from Bilawal. However, his papers were rejected due to his conviction in the Tosha Khana case. After seeing his appeals turned down by the Lahore High Court, Mr. Khan is expected to approach the Apex Court. But if he finds no relief there as well, it would signal an end to the former premier's hopes, at least for the 2024 elections. For more on this, find the link to the Dawn story in the description below.
Osama bin Laden is dead, but the butcher of Gujarat lives, and he is the Prime Minister of India.
In 1988,
My head in gratitude before Almighty Allah that I have been blessed with the opportunity to be a member of this august house.
His involvement since then has extended to leading the party's election campaigns in Balochistan in 2020 and Azad Jammu Kashmir in 2021. He also led a long march from Karachi to Islamabad against the then Imran Khan-led PTI government. Following the success of no confidence vote against Prime Minister Imran Khan, Mr. Bilawal was appointed Foreign Minister in the new cabinet led by then ally and current rival Shabazz. During his 2.5 tenure, Mr. Bilawal earned acclaim for his efforts to strengthen international ties, particularly through visits to Moscow, Japan and the United States. However, 2 events tied to India stood out. In December 2022, Mr. Bilawal's criticism of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi as the butcher of Gujarat gained praise at home but sparked protests in India.
I'd like to remind the Honourable Foreign Minister or the Minister for External Affairs of India that Osama bin Laden is dead, but the butcher of Gujarat lives, And he is the Prime Minister of India. He was banned from entering this country until he became Prime Minister. This is the Prime Minister of the RSS and the Foreign Minister of the RSS.
Later, he became the first Pakistani foreign minister to visit India in a decade, aiming to counter what he deemed was a false narrative about Muslims. Now moving on to Bilawal's key stances. He advocates for an end to traditional politics and has urged veteran politicians, including his own father and Nawaz Sharif, to make decisions that benefit the younger generation. Mr. Bilawal self-identifies as a strong supporter of democracy and positions the PPP as a pro-poor party, promising salary hikes and improved services if elected. Mr. Bilawal also insists on impartiality in dealings with establishment and the judiciary and has also pledged to establish a South Punjab province if the PPP wins. Despite his father's statement that Bilawal is not fully trained, the PPP has nominated him for the Prime Minister's spot ahead of the general elections slated for February 8th.
फिर अभी बिलावल पूरी तरह से ट्रेन नहीं हुआ, उसको भी ट्रेन कर रहे हैं.
बिलावल अभी तक ट्रेन नहीं है.
It'll take time.
For more profiles like this and election updates, keep watching Dawn News English. This is Neha Dagia signing off.
Hello and welcome to Dawn News English. It's the most happening day, I must say, and I have Apsa Komal with me because we've been covering the elections, pre-elections, the election day. So overall the situation, let's talk about that for all our viewers. We knew that these elections are like really important. It means a lot for Pakistan in terms of the economic challenges that Pakistan faces, in terms of the political challenges that Pakistan faces. But let's talk about the polling day. The day that started at 8 in the morning and the polling continued uninterrupted at 5. That's what the Election Commission of Pakistan had announced. But the day started with suspension of mobile phone services. What kind of a message, Apsa, do you think it sent to the voters? And how did you actually feel about all of this with no internet services as you step out to the polling stations and no mobile services?
Thank you, Nadia. And I think we had a very long day and we're still doing this because we have to keep people updated. I think today's polling day, because these were very long anticipated elections and we have already passed the constitutional time limit when we had to conduct the elections. So everybody was looking forward for these elections, and I also know firsthand that a lot of people traveled from abroad to cast their vote. So there was like some special kind of excitement and also some kind of response to what was happening with a certain party. So I think by our own standards of election history and polling day, the kind of things and troubles that they make on the polling day, and it's a polling day, and I think it's become a part of our election culture also. By our own standards, I think it was not a great, we did not set great examples for this polling day, especially the mobile connection you talked about. There are a lot of people who are relying on the mobile connection to kind of check their polling stations on the helpline provided by the Election Commission of Pakistan.
Exactly.
And also there are a lot of other uses of the internet. For example, there are a lot of people who travel through these online taxis to the polling stations to cast their vote. Nobody talks about this, but this is also because I also get to travel through these online apps sometimes, so I understand that also. But the communication gap, and also there was something else that we were all looking forward for, was citizen journalism. When they go to the polling stations, whatever they see, they will report. But unfortunately, because of the internet, because of the mobile connections, they were unable to report that. And I'm talking about all the parties across the board. It's not just the PTI. Yes. There are complaints by the MQM, very serious ones. Jamaat-e-Islami's Karachi chief, Hafiz Naeem Saab, he also had complaints, and he's been forwarding that to the journalists and on the social media. So I think across the board, mobile connection, not having mobile connection on this very important day was a loss.
You know what, Apsa, the minute I got to know that, suddenly when I stepped out of the house to start a transmission on Dawn News with you, I was just thinking that what exactly happened. First it sends some sort of a fear in people when the mobile phones are suspended, because yes, it was done on the pretext of security. That's what the government had said. although a day before the polling, the government had been announcing, Pakistan Telecommunication Authority had said that the mobile services are not going to be suspended. So ECP sort of shut down its own service to the voters.
Yes.
Because it had given this number that you could just send message, send your national identity card number, get to know about your polling booth, your family number, because when you go to the polling station, I went to vote. My vote is in Karachi. So I went to vote and, I just carried my national identity card. But, and I had done this 8300 service by the ECP long back. So I knew what my family number is, XY, whatever the information is required. But there were a lot of people who just leave this for the last day,
For the last day, yeah.
And they do it only when they're leaving to actually, to the polling station to vote. So you kind of shut that. So many people were running. They wanted to vote, but they couldn't find which polling station is ours, what is our family number, because that is required at the polling station. So I think, this entire suspension of mobile services sort of, denied that very right to vote. So I think, and even after the polling is over, okay, if it was a security, on the pretext of security, that people is going to gather around the polling stations and, there might be some sort of untoward incident because we have security challenges. But then what happened now? I mean, look at the time right now, and the mobile services are yet not resume.
And if they think the moment they restore the internet and not the internet, mobile services, they think they're going to forget about it, then there'll be a lot of kind of after the elections, the kind of if there is questions after the elections, it's a bigger problem than addressing those issues on the polling day. Especially you were talking about the helpline the ECP created.
Yes.
I've noticed, and I'm very clear about this when I say this, the Election Commission did not have an intent to motivate the voters of Pakistan. This time we had the chance to become the fifth biggest democracy in terms of the people who voted in the elections. So we have the most registered voters, mostly women, who registered between 2018 and 2024, which was a great news. We were celebrating in our studios and the transmission yesterday, but I was so sad to see that we missed the chance to but we can't be we can't give a final verdict right now. We still have to see the total complete turnout.
Absolutely.
And all, but the kind of problems people faced because of the mobile networks, I think it was discouraging for the voters. But also, usually we see the ECP has a lot of budget for the advertisement and to motivate the people. Systematically, people were being, they were making sure they don't step out of their houses on the polling day.
There was a sort of an atmosphere that discouraged the voters.
Absolutely.
Okay, and when you say that, because of the suspension of the mobile service, I also thought, Absa, that there was a lack of a real-time information. You mentioned about the citizen journalism, but also for reporters,
yes,
for newspapers, for TV channels. I mean, we were struggling to actually find out what exactly is happening, at the polling stations,
yes,
if there are some sort of issues. And when actually we got to know, it was too late. Because people used to go make some videos when they went back to their homes. They used to upload it through their, Wi-Fi, because the internet service at home through the Wi-Fi system were very much there.
Yes.
But by the time all this happened, I recall there's one of the reporters who got to know later that something happened at one of the polling stations in one of the constituencies. By the time he went to report, everything had been finished.
Yes.
But I think this is something, and I think 2024 elections will be known for this.
Yes.
That there was sort of an environment that discouraged the voters.
Yes.
But nevertheless.
Now, sorry, let me add one thing only. It's a sad day for journalists also, because if they don't have internet or mobile connection, the second medium they would rely. Initially, back in the day, it used to be TV or newspapers, but these days they mostly rely on digital platforms like this one. So as a second option, even they could not rely on us, the TV media, electronic media, because our reporters, we could not connect with them. And just like how you just mentioned, that they had to travel all the way back to the office or to somewhere where they had Wi-Fi to report those details to us. So I think, and by that time, even the polling time p.m. was over. At this one polling station in Karachi that we also have been mentioning in our transmissions, Askari 4, I think, Karachi,
yes, exactly.
I have the videos with me where families and like, you know, old women and everybody, they're just waiting to cast their vote, but even by 3 p.m. They did not open the polling, you know, the polling station. So I'm sad, you know, as in, like, you know, there must be so many people watching the TV as a second option these days. It's a reality, we need to accept it. We don't talk about it. We still say that TV is relevant, but digital platforms are more relevant.
Yes, because they're more quick and they reach out far more faster than probably TV would.
We could not update them as we should have.
And I think one thing that, I mean, it surprises me, Absa, why is it that ECP, with all its powers, I was just hoping they would come out in the open and instead of saying the entire process was free, fair and transparent. All right, you could talk about it generally, saying that yes, you know, in a general way, it was free, fair, transparent. That's what they own and say it. But there was not once that the Election Commission of Pakistan could come out and say that, oh, yes, we got to know these complaints, or we know that this is happening and we should take a notice of it.
Yes.
They did come out saying there were some 80 complaints that were, I think, probably resolved, but 80 out of the 90,700 or 600 polling stations across Pakistan. So I guess ECP also needs to, you know, sort of establish their constitutional, that it's a constitutional body, and there's a lot of powers given to them. Okay, let's come to the vote.
So one thing about the ECP, I got a chance to speak to the Chief Election Commissioner a few months ago, prior to the elections, while they were preparing, and also some officials. And I'm wondering, the things we say and how we deliver it are like poles apart. So they were even saying that there's a lot of fake news and disinformation on the election day. So what we are planning is that, you know, every 10 to 15 to half an hour, the spokesperson or somebody, the representatives of election commission will give a briefing to the media. But it was entirely opposite today. So
the caretaker government also seemed to be like lost and absent. They, I think they didn't even know that the mobile services were suspended and why. Because I sort of also, and you also tried to find out, there were different reporters going around finding out, but you know, the kind of a vague answer they gave made me, you know, made them look as if they don't even know why this was done and they're not even party to this. So I think that also
absolutely
puts a lot of, or raises a lot of questions to the legitimacy of this election, which already had been marred previously from the time the nomination papers were being filed. Nevertheless, it is done. We're waiting for the results to come, and right now it's very difficult to say who's going to win, because you know.
About the caretaker, there's this one thing I would like to add. I think the caretakers, even like the way I said about the ECP, that they should have done some motivational, at least digital videos on the face of it only. We know the circumstances and everything in the background of whatever is happening, but just on the face of it, sometimes you feel that you give respect to the citizens of and the voters of this country. Just like that, we did not see a single statement, a promising or a nice statement by the caretaker Prime Minister or the caretaker Information Minister and our former colleague also, Salangi Saab. I wish to see them, like, you know, take to the media, talk to the people and tell them that, you know, you go cast your vote. We are here to take care of the system and we were just here for that. But it feels like, and a lot of people agree, that this was an extended period for the caretaker, and looks like it will take them some time to kind of, like, you know, come to the realization that they were not here to stay. It is for an elected government to do this duty.
As it is, they stayed longer than they were required
Absolutely.
to, especially in the two provinces, that's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab. But what now I'm waiting for is to know the turnout, because as we just mentioned that we did not know exactly the real-time stories, right? How many people at a particular polling station, were there really queues? We do know of some, of course, but not entirely the way we all do in previous elections. Like in 2018, we knew exactly what was happening, because every television, the media group has loads of reporters all across Pakistan. Some of the stringers were also struggling to send us the information. So I was expecting that, the turnout is going to be huge, because at some polling stations and the reports that we received from ground in Punjab, in Karachi and various places, even in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, that people have gone out in numbers, because there was a lot of youth that have been registered as new voters. Women voters have increased.
Absolutely.
So what are your expectations? Is it more than 40 and 45%? I mean, we can only anticipate.
I know we can only, like, yeah, but I'm not seeing a lot of, like, I'm not expecting a lot of turnout because of a few things, and we can't say anything, like we still rely on the proper sources when we announce the results, and you can't just say anything. But the thing is that voter turnout, in my view, the way it was discouraged, we just discussed. Another problem that they may face also is rejected votes, because there was a lot of misinformation regarding that. I also saw some people, there were some genuine statements by some people related to PTI also back a few days back, and people, the name Panjuta is one of their, like, is running the election also. So he made a statement that if you cannot find your election symbol of your independent, the independent candidate of PTI, so just write their name with it also and all that. These are all the things that you get your vote rejected and discarded.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of misinformation regarding that also. There was a lot of misinformation late last night, regarding PTI boycotting this election also.
Absolutely.
So I think, I'm not sure if that played a role. People are also very smart. They know how to, like, kind of connect and ask each other about it. But since the mobile phones were not working, we'll have to see we'll have to check the rejected votes despite the turnout, and also, who did these fake news and the disinformation keep people from coming to the polling stations? But I think I'm not expecting more than 50%, if maximum, yeah. And I can be totally wrong.
Yes, I mean, it all depends how many people actually were able to go to the polling station and cast their votes, because that's what the turnout is. Because we did have news that there were polling stations, like you mentioned, you have videos. I have a lot, and Jamaat-e-Islami's Amir in Karachi had complained about almost 9 polling stations of a National Assembly constituency, saying that the polling had not begun until 3:39.
Yes.
So which is like
makes it 1 hour, hardly, like an hour and 10 minutes.
Yes, exactly. From the time the polling closes.
Yes.
So those were the complaints. Now what we need to see is those like real tough competitions that we were expecting. And in elections, what I really like are those constituencies where there is actually these tough competitions, so it's challenging, and some of them, of course, is in Punjab, because Pakistan Muslim League Supremo is back in Pakistan, the 3 times Prime Minister. He's contesting one of the PTI former Provincial Assembly member, Dr. Yasmin Rashid, who's still incarcerated. So, people say that's a very, probably the most important constituency in terms of a very challenging, competition.
Absolutely.
And the same like Hamza Shehbaz and another PTI-backed independent candidate, Alia Hamza. We have to see that, and Alia Hamza's daughter was actually doing the election campaign. Not much she could do, but the reason why we're talking about PTI over here is because that was the party, I've never seen the time I have been covering elections, a party launched as a party. The party backs you, but the election symbol has been taken away. It did happen to PMLN, but that was Senate elections, not in general elections.
And they were, even with when it happened with the People's Party, they were allotted a common symbol.
Exactly.
This time it's like, first time in the history where everybody has an individual, what you call it, like election symbol. And weird kind of, like, I don't know who was deciding at the ECP.
was, I think, trolling some of the candidates,
Yes, they did, actually. So, they give green chili to somebody.
Brinjal to someone.
So these kind of mockery also somehow, like, this is, I don't believe in mocking the politicians only, because they're the easy targets. But you were talking about important, clashes. So in Lahore, Yasmin Rashid and Nawaz Sharif, two giants. Why? Because Nawaz Sharif, although he's been 3-time Prime Minister, he's the head of his party, he has his whole political career and his own standing in his stronghold. But Dr. Yasmin Rashid has all the sympathies with her because of her age, because of her being a cancer survivor, she also being a woman and being in jail for such a long time now. It's been a long time. They have spent their whole summers this summer was very hard harsh. They were in the jails, and now it is very cold.
More than 220 days or so.
Yes, absolutely. So Yasmin Saiba has that on her side, but Nawaz Sharif has some other kind of sympathy on his side. I spoke to some of the PMLN's very staunch supporters. I got to, and it's rare because some of us are only talking about the PTI and getting to speak to them only.
Following. I mean, you can't deny that.
So they genuinely think that Nawaz played his cards right, and he suffered in the past, and now he's back, and this is the nature taking its revenge.
Well, there's no denial that Nawaz Sharif suffered.
Yes.
There's no denial. Yes, you can object on the fact that he went abroad, and people say that he had struck a deal. But at the same time, what an irony, Afsa, that Dr. Yasmin Rashid was the provincial health minister.
She's the one who made.
Yes, and she used to come and do these presses saying that he's really not well, and his diagnosis require him to actually travel abroad because we don't have those kind of treatment in Pakistan. And here they are both in one of the most talked about clashes. So I guess it's going to be interesting once the entire results come out.
Absolutely.
It will make us gauge about if Nawaz Sharif's comeback to Pakistan has actually given some sort of impetus to his party.
Or whatever is happening with PTI has taken over. But the whole narrative of PMLN, I think it is very unfortunate. The timing of everything is very unfortunate for the PMLN also. I think we were also discussing it in our break, you and I, that if the elections took place right after the vote of no confidence,
it would have been a very, very different result.
For PTI.
And it would have been very pro-PMLN.
Yes.
Because, in those days, I think, the inflation had also gone up.
Yes.
There were economic challenges. People were not really happy.
Yes.
And, of course, then the recall value that, Nawaz Sharif had been ousted in 2018, the government, the way it was being installed. But how different? You talked about the election culture, right? 2018 was the RTS election.
RDS.
Before that, we had the RO election. I don't know what to call this one.
I think the system did not make any, did not get highlighted today because of the other problems. So I think internet shutdown, like a mobile shutdown election, or something like that. Or maybe there are a lot of other things involved also. But the sad part is with every passing day, it looks like we are not kind of giving importance to the people of this country. So
but there's one positivity. What I really liked, I liked the youth coming out. I like people coming out. The videos that we have where senior citizens are going out to vote, where youth is coming out and in numbers and they want to vote, means that they understand the importance to exercise this right.
Let's also talk about, we're talking about young people, two young contestants from both the parties, People's Party and PMLN, Atta Tarar and People's Party Chairman Bilawal. Both are young, both are energetic, and I've been following their campaign. Atta Tarar was every single day he was giving something interesting to the people, and he was just addressing them.
He did a lot of rallies also towards the end.
Even his the opponent, the kind of campaign he did, there were posters, do not make Lahore, Karachi, we don't want Lahore to be like Karachi and all that. So it was going well, and they were making jokes and everything, and I learned from an online interview that Atta Tarar is also a fan of Eminem, so he was putting all showing all those colors. We could see those colors in his campaign. But on the other side, Bilawal Bhutto also has been kind of addressing the young people, and he is a young person, and he's also telling people that you can relate with me and I can relate with you, and these kind of things.
Exactly.
So we'll have to see how Bilawal is taking a lead as of now when you and I are talking.
All right, and this seat is very important for Pakistan People's Party, because Pakistan People's Party has been systematically ousted from Punjab.
Yes.
And then of course more so on their performance when they got a government.
It has to do with their own strategy also later.
But also because of the way the parties are cut to size in various places.
Yes.
So yes, Pakistan People's Party's this constituency is very important. Even if they don't win, the kind of campaign that Bilawal has led in Punjab, the largest province of Pakistan, will at least get his party structure together.
Absolutely.
And if they if he really wins the seat, it's going to be a major upset.
Nadia, I think Bilawal back in the, sometimes you try to figure out when did he get the confidence to step into Lahore. So which is the stronghold of PMLN for a long time, and then PTI. PTI gave people PMLN a very strong competition there. But I don't know if you remember the long march when Bilawal was taking the took the long march, and they passed through the GT road and all. It looks like that was the time when he probably this idea occurred to him or whatever, that they need to revive their party. There was a lot of very organic kind of a support for him, and they because of the kind of support they give to BB and all. Punjab welcomed Benazir Bhutto on her return and all. So I think we'll have to see if his confidence was right, or if not in these elections or next, will he be able to revive People's Party in Punjab?
But as I said, even if he doesn't win, for me as a politician, because the way, it's not easy.
Yes,
we never saw PMLN coming to Sindh or Balochistan for any sort of election rallies, right? Because they know they don't have that kind of support here. But they should have come. I feel because, when you want to posture as a national leader and you feel that you are the candidate for the Prime Minister position, you must go across Pakistan, across the country, to gather that kind of support, give something to the people of Pakistan, your voters, your supporters, or create more.
But who has this wisdom, Nadia? Who has this wisdom and grace in our politics? You can't find three politicians who have this kind of grace. So I think...
And the same problem was with Imran Khan also.
Imran Khan?
Yeah,
Imran Khan was the one who
concentrated much in Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
Only.
But not in Sindh or Balochistan.
See, we were watching the campaigns, the PMLN attitude I'm talking about. They talk like your voters, my voters, your supporters, my supporters. You don't see politicians around the world talking like that. Your women dance, our women sit like that very decently, So you don't talk like that when you're a politician, and especially that too, a 3-time Prime Minister. You've been leading the whole country, and you've been the Prime Minister of everybody under the sky in Pakistan. So I think this is a very immature attitude, and you kind of give up on them because, there's no structure of strategy, young advisors, internationally politicians have. They don't have women advisors. It's just the families, they're just running them, and there's yes boss attitude. So that's why I feel that the campaigns were not inclusive, especially of the PMLN.
You're just talking about inclusivity of women also. I'm talking about even on Pakistani media.
Absolutely.
The TV channels.
Yeah.
How inclusive are they? You see all sorts of, I mean, with all due respect, they're all my colleagues, but there are all male analysts, male journalists. And probably females are just put into the transmissions or on these marathons to have some sort of color. But, do they really think we've really fought our way to come to this position?
Yes.
So I still feel it's a patriarchal mindset.
Absolutely.
And it'll take a long way, whether it's the parliament, it's the media, it's the political parties. And see how political parties have not given women a chance to contest on general seats through direct elections. Very few. I can talk about Shahzeb, Nafisa Shah, but how many more?
And I also have a problem with even the reserve seats. People coming in, like women, if they consider a woman, it's most of the times because of the family background, a loyalist being their father, or so not discouraging those women, but there should be some really independent, common women coming from the grassroots to represent the people. So I think these are the things that, if you care about optics, if you care about what they're thinking, then you make these changes. But when you don't care, you don't care. So I think this is the mindset we see across the board, but especially in the PMLN. And also there was something else that I just skipped my mind. I just slipped it. But so there was nothing very special or very attractive in the campaigns. I would like to see PTI also doing this campaign. We're talking about the media, So with the opinions also, but we're lucky to be working for Dawn.
Dawn, exactly.
We were appreciated today because we have all the gender, I think it was more at one point female dominated panel also, but we are keeping a good balance. And not just that, I think the viewers should know that Dawn News TV has most female prime time anchors.
Yes, and we're very proud of that.
Yes, and we have like this digital platform that where we're speaking from is also led by a woman. So yeah, that is one change that Dawn has, and the whole country needs to adopt it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I think on this note we're going to be waiting for the results to actually pour in, to understand now what the voter turnout was, how strong a challenged PTI without its symbol were able to put up, how PMLN has performed after the comeback of their Supremo leader Nawaz Sharif, how was Bilawal's campaign actually in terms of winning him the support across Pakistan.
Yes.
What about Jamaat-e-Islami and of course the TLP, the right-wing voters. So all of this, of course, we can only then analyze after the entire results are out. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Ammar, for your
Nadia.
time.
Thank you.
Take care and goodbye.
Thank you.
In the lead up to the uncertain February 8th elections, delimitation grounds in particularly contentious process. The roots of this discontent trace back to a meeting in August 2023, where 4 days before dissolving the National Assembly, the coalition government approved the results of the 2023 legislative session. This move closed the door on elections within the post-2019 delimitation, compelling the ECP to conduct fresh delimitation. This delimitation was either permitted unusually,
a stronghold of political dynasties. These influential families have consistently held power, whether under civilian or military rule, maintaining a firm grip on the political landscape. Major parties inevitably seek their favor by offering tickets, solidifying positions, and gaining access to power corridors. These entrenched electables strategically choose deals to stay relevant. Seat arrangements indicate that, beyond Karachi and Hyderabad, the 2024 general elections in Sindh will predominantly be a contest between the PPP and other contenders in numerous constituencies. The question that naturally arises is, how has the PPP managed to maintain its stronghold in Sindh despite facing strong criticism for its performance?
So that is a fascinating question, which I think puzzles a lot of commentators in Pakistan who have been very critical of PPP's performance. I think what a lot of people in urban areas miss out on is the fact that the PPP has maintained close ties with its voters in rural Sindh, and contrary to popular belief, it has also delivered to the most, the poorest in the province. And the examples are, for example, the Benazir Income Support Program, which has made a huge difference to women as a safety net. If you look at the floods we had, the historical floods in Sindh, the PPP has since then started building or reconstruction for a lot of people. More than, I think, 300,000 houses have been built. So it delivers where it matters. The PPP is not known for mega projects, for example, like Muslim League Nawaz is. They can show huge projects, metros and motorways and grand schemes. PPP isn't really known for that. They focus on giving relief to the downtrodden. Now, people have criticized that you are actually creating a culture of dependency rather than empowering people. But I think it has served the party well. So while there is this perception that their members have been involved in corruption, they have enriched themselves, they've stolen public funds, and there may be a lot of truth to it, at the end of the day, people who go out to vote, it doesn't really matter to them. That's what I would say. I'm not saying people are okay with corruption, but I think they have bigger issues on their mind, issues of survival, issues of feeding their families. And the PPP tries to trickle down in that way. It is a corrupt system, it is a dysfunctional system. It doesn't serve the public or the province in the longer term, but it works. And that appears to be the Zardari strategy, if you will. So if you look at the PPP, its vote bank has consistently grown since 2008 after the assassination of Benazir Bhutto. And that has happened through a combination of winning over your opponents by hook or crook, eliminating any opposition, and Mr. Zardari and his sister Faryal Talpur, operationally they have done that. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is their CSR. You know, he's the popular face. He's the progressive face of the party. He connects with younger people. He represents a little bit of change from the past, and he commands the emotional appeal, because the PPP also reminds its voters that we are the party of the martyrs. You know, the grandfather was hanged, the mother was assassinated, and so there is that emotional appeal as well, generational emotional appeal for people of Sindh to connect with the PPP. Now, having said that, we mustn't underestimate the amount of disappointment with the PPP, especially among younger, more educated, more tech-savvy people who do not like dynastic rule. They are resentful of families ruling virtually every district of Sindh. They don't like fiefdoms. They want equal opportunities, and they don't want to be dependent on politicians for basic civic services. So, but the problem is that resentment hasn't boiled over yet, and one reason for that is there isn't a fantastic alternate as well. So people are often found questioning themselves that if I don't want to vote for PPP, who do I vote for? So in Sindh, traditionally you've had smaller Sindhi nationalist parties, but people of Sindh have hardly ever voted for them. People have voted for Pakistan People's Party, which believes in federation, which is not which it doesn't have a narrow agenda. Then you have the Muslim League Functional, traditional rival to the PPP in rural areas. Again, they have hardly anything to offer, which is better than the PPP. Their politicians are also spiritual leaders, not really known for any dynamic public agenda. And then you have these independent people, influentials in different districts of Sindh, like you have Arbab Ghulam Rahim in Thar, you have in Badin, you have the Mirza family, and so on and so forth. And these are electables. They sometimes cut a deal with the PPP, but if they are not getting a good deal, then they will stand independently, hoping that they can capture on the anti-PPP sentiment. The reason why I feel that in Sindh we will have the PPP for 20 years now is because of these factors. Karachi, the provincial capital and the commercial capital of Pakistan, again, the PPP has grown its footprint in the city, and this was evident from last year's local government elections, in which the PPP managed to bring its own mayor after a very, very long time. It commands popularity in certain areas of Karachi. It has traditionally for decades, especially in areas, coastal areas with Sindhi speaking and Baloch population, but it is now also making inroads in Urdu speaking population as well. Recently we've seen ex-lawmakers from the MQM party join the PPP. It is also making an effort to present itself as not just the party of Sindhi speaking people, but also resonate with Urdu speaking and Pashtun speaking people in the city of Karachi as well. So it is making that effort, and I think it will be an interesting fight between MQM and the PPP, especially in District Central, which has been the traditional stronghold of the MQM. But I think Karachi will have a divided mandate, divided between the MQM, the PPP, Jamaat-e-Islami has emerged as a force in the last 5-6 years. They have really resonated with young people. They have become tech savvy. They have tried to change their outlook from a regressive, conservative, religious party to a party which believes in social action. And they have been actually working very actively at the neighborhood level, in disaster relief, in connecting with the youth as well as women. So, we will see how it pans out. But yes, the PPP is claiming to be a serious stakeholder in the city of Karachi as well. The feedback I'm getting from various places in Sindh, and this is also a bit surprising, because we generally think that Sindh is the PPP territory, but I'm hearing from a lot of people, like man on the street, wanting to vote for a pro-PTI candidate, and that's because they not only more of the same.
The general apathy of voters towards the impending polls, coupled with the insufficient campaigning by candidates from rival parties, and the PPP's adeptness in either enticing or silencing opposition through favors, have paved the way for a smooth electoral journey for the former ruling party.
February 8th general election, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf faces a unique challenge. The party, known for its iconic bat electoral symbol, has been stripped of this emblem. The PTI symbol was revoked in December due to technical reasons, specifically the party's failure to conduct intra-party elections. And despite the PTI's effort, the Supreme Court upheld the Election Commission of Pakistan's decision to revoke the symbol. As a result, PTI candidates will now compete as independents, each with a separate symbol. The PTI argues that this loss could compromise the fairness of the election, making its candidates susceptible to horse trading. To understand the gravity of the situation, let's delve into the significance of electoral symbols and the challenges facing the PTI in upcoming polls. So, electoral symbols serve as unique pictorial identifiers assigned by the Election Commission of Pakistan to political parties and candidates before elections. These symbols, such as the bat for PTI, aid voters easily recognizing their choices on the ballot paper. Given the country's literacy rate, which is below 40%, these symbols play a crucial role, especially in rural areas where the literacy rate is around 50%. For this election, total of 150 symbols have been assigned to political parties, with another 174 available for independent candidates. Popular symbols include the tiger for PMLN, the arrow for PPP, and the lantern for the Awami National Party. The complete list of symbols can be found on the ECP's website. The PTI's current situation is not unique, drawing parallels to the PPP's challenge in the late 70s. After the 1977 general election, military dictator General Zia-ul-Haq removed the sword, plough and scale symbols from the approved list. Although the main target was the sword, other symbols were also removed for balance. Losing the sword, the PPP adopted the arrow as its symbol. In August 2002, the party established Pakistan People's Party parliamentarians to comply with the decree from former military ruler General Pervez Musharraf that prevented Benazir Bhutto from holding a party office. This move aimed to avoid losing the chance to participate in elections. In the 2013 elections, the party used the arrow symbol under the PPP platform, while the PPP was assigned two swords. After 41 years, in 2018, the PPP strategically reclaimed the sword symbol to prevent rivals from acquiring it. However, for the upcoming polls, the PPP will continue with the arrow as its electoral symbol to avoid confusing the voters. That wraps up our coverage for today. For the latest updates on election-related developments, be sure to tune in to Dawn News English.
February 8 elections delimitation remains a particularly contentious process. The roots of this discontent trace back to a meeting in August 2023, where 4 days before dissolving the National Assembly, the coalition government approved the results of the 2023 digital census. This move closed the door on elections within the constitutional 90-day limit, compelling the ECP to conduct fresh delimitation. This delimitation was different because unusually there was no elected government in power during the process. Without a National Assembly, the total number of seats could not be modified without a constitutional amendment. This means that although the population increased from 207.7 million in 2017 to 241.5 million in 2023, The general seats in the National Assembly had to remain the same at 266 as per Article 51(3) of the Constitution. As per the ECP's final delimitations, there are 141 seats in Punjab, 61 in Sindh, 45 in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, 16 in Balochistan and 3 in Islamabad. The total has been reduced by 6 from the 2018 tally of 272, with seats of the ex-FATA reduced from 12 to 6 after its merger with KP, following the 25th Constitutional Amendment. Now, Punjab was a focal point of delimitation changes. Due to fixed seat constraints, it had to go through significant rearrangements. Notably, NA57 Rawalpindi 1 transformed into NA51 Rawalpindi cum Murree, reflecting Murree's upgraded status to a district. NA59 Talagangs cum Chakwal saw changes due to Talagang's district upgrade. Wazirabad's designation as a district reshaped NA77 Gujranwala 1. Hafizabad district, now eligible for a separate seat, led to changes in NA67 and NA81 Gujranwala 5. Southern Punjab also underwent significant realignment, with districts losing or gaining seats. City centres like Lahore, Faisalabad and Multan experienced stretched constituency boundaries, causing contention among candidates. The fresh delimitations also reduced former tribal areas of Bajor, Khyber and Kurram seats from 2 to 1. The ex-Orakzai agency's single seat merged with Hangu, creating NA36 Hangu cum Orakzai. North Waziristan retains its single seat, while South Waziristan's 2 seats combine into NA42 South Waziristan Upper cum South Waziristan Lower. In Chitral, the district has been split into Upper and Lower Chitral, both forming a single constituency. However, no further district realignments occurred, maintaining the mainland's 39-seat share. Balochistan, often deemed underprivileged and underrepresented, faces a unique challenge in seat delimitation due to its vast constituency. The per-seat quota has risen from 771,546 to 930,900 in 2023, becoming the highest. Balochistan's population growth has not translated into proportional seat increases, leading to district mergers. An example is NA260 Chaghi cum Noshki cum Kharan cum Vashok, covering 98,596 square kilometers, larger than all South Punjab districts combined. Delimitation mostly retained districts intact, only Nasirabad, Cage and Quetta split. Ziyarat merged into NA253, Sohbatpur and Jafarabad into NA255 and Lasbela into NA257. Cage merged with Panchgur and Gwadar. Quetta's 3 seats underwent significant changes, with the city centre split into 2, and NA264 expanded east to Kutchi district. In Sindh, the 2023 delimitation closely followed previous patterns with 2 major changes. Jacobabad and Kashmir districts, each with 1 seat in 2018, now split into 2 constituencies each. Sangar district lost a seat added to Karachi's total, increasing its constituencies to 22. In Karachi, District West, with 5 seats in 2018, reduced to 3 in 2023 due to the creation of District Kimari, which gained 2 seats. Changes in Malir areas may favor PPP. Notably, NA237 in District East seemed to benefit MQM Pakistan. A significant shift occurred in District East NA236, previously NA243, won by Imran Khan. The boundary extended to PAF Faisal Air Base. In District South, NA239 and NA240 delimitation appeared to accommodate both MQMP and PPP, suggesting a diverse political landscape in Karachi. These shifts mark a transformative delimitation trend in preparations for the upcoming elections.
मुझे उम्मीद है कि अब इकबाल जुर्म कर लिया है तो जो अफवाज पाकिस्तान का इदारा है, इदारा खुद एहतसाब करे।
Intriguing, right? To give context,
Ms. Maryam stands out as a prominent figure in Pakistani politics, anticipated to succeed her father, three-time Premier Mia Muhammad Nawaz. Born in 1974, Ms. Maryam has made her mark in a male-dominated political landscape, known for her sharp rhetoric and the ability to energize and connect with a crowd. In 1992, during her father's initial term as Prime Minister, Ms. Maryam married Muhammad Safdar, a captain in the Pakistan Army. Initially staying behind the scenes, her political journey gained momentum in 2013 when she played a crucial role in managing her father's re-election campaign, countering the rising popularity of PTI's Imran Khan among the youth. Upon her father's rise to power, Ms. Maryam took on the role of the chairperson of Prime Minister Youth Loan Programme. However, her qualifications faced scrutiny, leading to a legal challenge by the PTI. She then assumed the leadership of a social media wing to counter opposition challenges. By 2018, Ms. Maryam had become a prominent figure within the PMLN and national politics, recognized for crowd pulling and organizational skills. Ms. Maryam received party tickets in 2018 general elections but could not contest, since she, along with her father and husband, faced convictions in the Ebenfield reference. She appealed the conviction, and in 2022 the sentences were overturned, allowing her to re-enter the political arena.
अल्लाह ताला का बड़ा शुक्र है, अल्लाह ताला ने आपको आज सुरखरू किया है और अल्लाह ताला ने आपके मुखालिफिन को आज अल्लाह ताला ने नाकाम किया है, नामुराद किया है.
Appointed party's vice president in 2019 during her father's self-imposed exile, Ms. Maryam actively led anti-government rallies and criticized the PTI, the Pakistan Army and judiciary.
नवाज शरीफ से जान निकलती है इनकी. नवाज शरीफ का नाम सुनते ही नवाज शरीफ के मुखालिफिन पर इमरान खान पर कपकपी तारी हो जाती है.
However, her political activity seemed ebb and flow, with periods of high engagement followed by strategic absences, perhaps to allow her uncle Shehbaz Sharif to negotiate with the establishment. Her recent elevation to senior vice president and chief organizer in January 2023 marked a decisive return to active politics. She is currently contesting for a National Assembly and a Provincial Assembly seat, and this marks her first direct participation in a general election. Now, Ms. Maryam vehemently criticizes the judiciary, attributing her father's ouster in 2017 to them and demands judges' accountability.
अब तो ये कमबख्त मार्शल लॉ भी नहीं लगाते. वो तो मार्शल लॉ नहीं लगाते तो आपके कमबख्तों ने जुडिशल मार्शल लॉ लगा दिया है.
She also accuses a former intelligence official of aiding Imran Khan's rise to power and suppressing the opposition.
मुझे उम्मीद है कि अब उन्होंने एतराफ़ अगर कर लिया है, इकबाल जुर्म कर लिया है, तो जो हमारा इदारा है, जो अफ़वाज पाकिस्तान का इदारा है, तो मुझे उम्मीद है कि ये जो इदारा खुद उसका एहतसाब करेगा.
Advocating for youth involvement, Ms. Maryam has urged PMLN to prioritize young candidates.
If every single Gen Z and millennial voter rallied behind a single party, that party could secure victory without needing support from Gen X or the boomers. Intriguing, right? To give context, we're talking about Pakistan, a South Asian country gearing up for elections on Feb 8th, where a whopping 44% of the voting population comprises young people. For a deeper dive into this, check out the video on the left. Returning to our discussion, studies indicate that millennials and Gen Z are investing a solid 2 to 3 hours on social media every day. So instead of traditional door-to-door campaigning or splurging on flashy ads, the savvy move appears to be leveraging social media. It's a bang for your buck situation. According to estimates from a local SEO company running a comprehensive campaign across various platforms, targeting specific audiences and utilizing sophisticated ad formats could cost anywhere from rupees 80,000 to rupees 300,000 per month, or even more. In contrast, the prime time rate per minute on a private news channel is around rupees 75,000. To put things into perspective, you could run an entire month of a sophisticated social media campaign with the same budget that you'd spend on a 5-minute spot on one channel for just one day. So if you're a savvy campaigner, you'd know the trick is to reach your audience in a way that's easy on the wallet.
कि अब इकबाल जुर्म कर लिया है तो जो अफवाज पाकिस्तान का इदारा खुद एहतसाब करेगी।
Miss Maryam stands out as a prominent figure in Pakistani politics, anticipated to succeed her father, three-time Premier Mia Mohammad Nawaz Sharif. Born in 1974, Miss Maryam has made her mark in a male-dominated political landscape, known for her sharp rhetoric and the ability to energize and connect with a crowd. In 1992, during her father's initial term as Prime Minister, Miss Maryam married Mohammad Safdar, a captain in the Pakistan Army. Initially staying behind the scenes, her political journey gained momentum in 2013 when she played a crucial role in managing her father's re-election campaign, countering the rising popularity of PTI's Imran Khan among the youth. Upon her father's rise to power, Miss Maryam took on the role of the chairperson of Prime Minister Youth Loan Programme. However, her qualifications faced scrutiny, leading to a legal challenge by the PTI. She then assumed the leadership of a social media wing to counter opposition challenges. By 2018, Miss Maryam had become a prominent figure within the PMLN and national politics, recognized for crowd pulling and organizational skills. Miss Maryam received party tickets in 2018 general elections but could not contest, since she, along with her father and husband, faced convictions in the Ebenfield reference. She appealed the conviction, and in 2022 the sentences were overturned, allowing her to re-enter the political arena.
अल्लाह ताला का बड़ा शुक्र है, अल्लाह ताला ने आपको आज सुरखरू किया है और अल्लाह ताला ने आपके मुखालिफिन को आज अल्लाह ताला ने नाकाम किया है, नामुराद किया है।
Appointed party's vice president in 2019 during her father's self-imposed exile, Miss Maryam actively led anti-government rallies and criticized the PTI, the Pakistan Army and judiciary.
नवाज शरीफ से जान निकलती है इनकी। नवाज शरीफ का नाम सुनते ही नवाज शरीफ के मुखालिफिन पर इमरान खान पर कपकपी तारी हो जाती है।
However, her political activity seemed ebb and flow, with periods of high engagement followed by strategic absences, perhaps to allow her uncle Shahbaz Sharif to negotiate with the establishment. Her recent elevation to senior vice president and chief organizer in January 2023 marked a decisive return to active politics. She is currently contesting for a National Assembly and a Provincial Assembly seat, and this marks her first direct participation in a general election. Now, Ms. Maryam vehemently criticizes the judiciary, attributing her father's ouster in 2017 to them and demands judges' accountability.
उमर अता बंदियाल साहब की सांस पर मार रही थी, अब तो ये कमबख्त मार्शल लॉ भी नहीं लगाते। वो तो मार्शल लॉ नहीं लगाते तो आपके कमबख्तों ने जुडिशल मार्शल लॉ लगा दिया है।
She also accuses a former intelligence official of aiding Imran Khan's rise to power and suppressing the opposition.
मुझे उम्मीद है कि अब उन्होंने एतराफ़ अगर कर लिया है, इकबाल जुर्म कर लिया है, तो जो हमारा इदारा है, जो अफवाज पाकिस्तान का इदारा है, तो मुझे उम्मीद है कि ये जो इदारा खुद उसका एहतसाब करेगी।
Advocating for youth involvement, Ms. Maryam has urged PMLN to prioritize young candidates in the upcoming elections. For more profiles and election updates, keep following Dawn News English. This is Neha Dagia signing off.
Welcome back to the Dawn English election transmission, and it is past 9 o'clock. Results have started to come in. Right now, we have to sort of be very wary of the kind of sort of results that we see right now, because up until now, we have about 5 to 8% of polling station results coming in from 5 to 8% of polling stations. But still, obviously, it's a heated topic. Who's winning right now? At this point, it's that lull period, I would say, in which some of the results are coming in, but you might have some clear leads, but that could also flip a few hours later. With me, just as we had in the first hour that we did this show, was Ammar Khan, who is an economist and data whiz and number whiz, and we'll be talking to him as well. But Shahzeb Jillani, we're very fortunate to have anchor for Dawn News, a veteran journalist, a veteran of many, many elections. So Shahzeb, you've just come from the TV broadcast as well. the big story at this moment, at this point in time, is still mobile phone transmissions, as well as the fact that Asif Ali Zardari is apparently going to Islamabad, and some of the results coming in. So talk us through the latest.
So look, the fact that mobile phone connections were shut down across the country, mobile internet wasn't working, that came as a huge shock to a lot of voters. It disrupted their ability to get to polling stations, to file complaints. In many polling stations, there are complaints that the staff didn't get there until well after lunchtime. Now, normally, if the phones had been working, candidates or their polling agents have the opportunity to raise an alarm bell, to draw attention, and there could be, the election commission can then take care of it. But I feel
the election commissioner was very clear that this is not our domain and we'll take it up. But I mean, taking it up has meant that the entire day has passed and polling closed, and it wasn't taken up.
Well, ensuring a free and fair election and access is the election commission's responsibility. What I'm saying is that if mobile phones are shut down, then how do people complain? How does media report on it? I, for example, feel that throughout the day as a news anchor or TV anchor, I'm just shooting in the dark. The results that we're talking about, very initial results from some polling stations, they are very dodgy.
Unofficial.
Yeah, they're unofficial, but I have just checked, for example, with our own team,
right,
that the results that we are flashing on TV, where are they coming from? And they're saying the local correspondent is filing. And I said, where is he or she getting it from? And there is no answer. So we are not even getting what is called the P45, which is at the end of polling at 5 o'clock. Usually, my experience tells me it takes less than an hour to count maybe 2,000, 3,000 votes in a polling station, and the presiding officer will write it down, everybody's present, and it'll give you P45. Now, P45 is something I would accept as a provisional result. But somebody coming out of polling station and telling my correspondent that, my party has won this much, and for TV channels to flash it, we are completely in the dark right now. And that is why I would take everything that is being reported with a pinch of salt. My big worry is, if they had to shut down mobile and internet, we knew that they will do it in some areas where there's been violence, in Balochistan and certain constituencies, but it won't be across the country for throughout, 10 hours. I mean, right now it's like 9:30.
Karachi is still off.
In Karachi, we are sitting in the biggest city of Pakistan, and my phone is still not working. That raises a number of questions about the exercise. And
could I also like to point out that on election day, essentially it isn't even the caretaker government in charge. I mean, technically. It is actually the election commission that has in a sense executive power over all other areas, which includes security, which includes telecommunications, because their job fundamentally is to ensure a fair and transparent electoral process.
Yeah. I mean, you saw the caretaker prime minister when he went to vote this morning, and people asked him about mobile phones, and he said, "Oh, it must have been shut down because of security reasons," as if he had no clue.
But the Election Commission of Pakistan has quasi-judicial powers as well.
Yes, but look, they are dependent on other state institutions. They don't have a force of their own.
But those state institutions, by law and constitution, are supposed to, are actually subservient to the Election Commission.
Yeah, I mean,
in the discharge
what
of
I'm
its
saying
duties.
is, if the government planned to shut down the phones and internet, it could have told the nation that this is going to happen. So voters could have
planned accordingly.
Yeah, they could have planned accordingly.
No, but Ammar, I mean, internet shutdowns have been happening sporadically and very, very, very coincidentally when Pakistan Telecom was holding virtual jalsas or raising funds as well. But the cost of internet shutdowns, it's not just a cost to the democracy or transparency of the elections, right?
Yeah, there's a very, very high economic cost. People just don't trust the country anymore or its policies anymore, because you cannot run a serious business when you don't know whether telecommunication is going to work or not. That's why you cannot have serious technology-related businesses in the country, because what if internet shuts down because someone doesn't like it? So that's a big issue. So this just goes beyond elections at this point, and it fundamentally talks about whether the country is even ready for serious businesses. or ready for serious investment. No one's going to invest in the country when they say that internet gets shut down once a month or twice a month at this point.
But listen, you remember...
Over half polling stations were declared sensitive, I believe. I think
in Balochistan, about 80%.
80%.
Right.
Karachi, Hyderabad were actually among the polling areas that were declared sensitive. But as you said, internet was shut down across the country.
Yeah.
But I also want to point out that when you said that there was no indication, there were indications, because the caretaker government, whether it was the caretaker information minister or the interior minister, they kept saying that, well, because of the security situation or because there may be technical difficulties, because something is being fixed, the internet could potentially be shut down. But there was a red flag there.
Well, but they hinted that in some areas it may be shut down, and there was a statement by Amnesty International saying that you should ensure people have access to internet. Now look, we've had elections.
Also went to the Sindh High Court.
Yeah, we've had elections in the past where in 2002, for example, people didn't rely on internet, right? So it's not unheard of, and I've seen the international observers saying today, well, it's not going to affect voting and counting, but it does, because look, there are serious questions over the transparency of this election, and what has happened in the last 7-8 months. On the day of the election, for transparency, if the government was serious about the credibility of this election, it would have not done this, because it allows people to launch complaints, to show, to film, to collect evidence of any rigging or engineering. And I think we remember 2018 election because the electronic management system just broke down, right? It couldn't cope.
Yeah, past
right?
11, 12 o'clock, I mean, at this point in time,
right?
I think the results had slowed down, and that's when we were all in a bit of a shock, I would say. Right?
So it tainted the election. And this election, I am afraid, will be remembered for what they have done with telecoms,
And to use, because in Pakistan we use a lot of metaphors, I would say whoever has the on and off button doesn't care.
Yeah.
So it's off button right now, and however it's transmitted, I mean, as we were discussing earlier, it can be a camel, it can be a car, it can be anything. Whatever happens, again, as Shahzeb said, it's just tainted at this point.
And so some of the early indications we are getting from people on the ground in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, in central Punjab, they're saying, we've been talking a lot about the young voter and the new voter, and there are tens of...
Many more women voters.
Many more women voters, and these are in tens and millions, right? Apparently, from what we are hearing, they have turned out in big numbers in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and central Punjab. And so this could be a worry for people who want a predictable outcome. And if mobile phones are shut, complaints aren't being lodged. We haven't heard from polling agents what went on. I am looking at a long night now. I was hoping
a few long nights.
It could be even few long nights.
Not just one long night.
I also want to remind everybody again that provincial results are supposed to get to the Central Election Monitoring Cell by 2 a.m. according to the law.
That's what they said that we are aiming for.
That's a law.
That's the law. And they said if there are any issues, maximum by 10 a.m. the next day.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I don't know. It doesn't look likely at the moment.
So, I mean, because you're a veteran of many elections, do you think this process is longer because of the results transmission issues?
No, look, I mean,
shall we go back and put context?
I mean,
give context,
look, the way this election is being organized, whatever has been done with PTI, with Imran Khan, this was already tainted. What we had hoped is that they will feel confident with their predictable outcome and let the election day carry on smoothly. I think they've also failed in that. And so there will be questions asked. And I think it's a sad day because, look, Election Commission's sole responsibility was to make sure people go to the polls. That's what we've been saying to everyone. Whether you are angry, you are passionate about a political leader, get out and vote. A lot of people couldn't get out and vote, right? We were hoping for a big turnout. Or they were turned away, like you were turned away, right? I mean, you feel betrayed, right? Okay, this is supposed to be my day.
Yes.
This is supposed to be my day, not some political pundit, not some analyst, not some politician. This is my day. And you take it away from me. It's like, on your wedding night, the bride is not the center of attention, somebody else is. It's like, so I think it's frustrating, but we are looking at a long night. Let's see how it pans out. as you said,
But okay, all right, I want to sort of, again, go back a little bit, put it into a bit of a context. With 2018 as well, there was some degree of pre-poll rigging against the PMLN. The result transmission system did not work. The Election Commission later said it was a technical fault.
Yeah, it was overwhelmed and all that. Yeah,
and everything slowed down, all of those things. But that's because, and traditionally this is the understanding, that you can do a lot of pre-poll rigging, but you can't manage it on the day because people will vote where they will. And I would also like to sort of insert here a little bit, that sure, it's true that electioneering or campaigning started late, notably with PMLN, I believe. The PTI had a lot of challenges because there were raids and corner meetings, and they weren't given the coverage that they should have been on the media. Bilawal did start very early and went across the country and did a very sort of vigorous campaign.
Yeah.
So people, the reason that politicians put in money, the reason, forget about deals, forget about the military establishment, forget about any of those things. The reason that politicians campaign, go door to door, spend money on ads, on pamphlets, on flags, is because at the end of the day, what people will vote for, you don't know until election day. Right?
Yeah. I mean, the elections, however engineered, have an element of unpredictability.
Yeah.
Right. But what I'm saying is that people who wanted a predictable outcome, even on the election day, they are not confident of it, and that is why they have to resort to these tactics and say, we are doing this for security reasons. Well, I mean, security issue was present in 2 provinces, but it's not across the country.
Yeah.
And to shut it down across the country on such an important day, I mean.
And then I think what I'd like to insert here is that it also, so let's take this on balance. So 2013, violent. 2018 also, we saw a lot of terror attacks. Harun Bilawal was killed, AMP.
Yeah.
It wasn't an easy ride just in terms of security threats and terrorist attacks. The internet, mobile services were not shut down on this wide scale. There may have been pockets, which reportedly there were, even then. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that what is the priority? Because the argument could be, well, the reason that you didn't have as much violence, despite indications that there could have been, is because the mobile services were shut down. We just had some incidents. I think there was a policeman who were attacked today. So it was a relatively peaceful election, and that's because mobile services were shut down. So what's the counter argument here?
No. I really don't think this is about security. It has. I would see it in the context of these wider efforts that have been going on in the country for 9 months about trying to get an outcome that you've already decided on. And it is really sad for people of Pakistan that despite the fact that they have seen this throughout the year, they still wanted to go out and have their say. They still, everybody was saying it doesn't matter which way you're going to vote because the results are predetermined. And yet, women, young people, they wanted to go out and have their say, and they have apparently in many parts. And to to make it harder for them, to demoralize them. I mean, that's a scandal.
Absolutely. It's mass disenfranchisement.
I just don't buy this explanation of security threats.
No, I think
not across the country. In some parts, yes, but not across the country.
Absolutely, and I think that what is the priority here? An open, free, transparent election process in which every citizen in Pakistan has access to information and communication to be able to vote. It's really as simple as that.
Yeah.
We know that democracy is not just about elections. But this is just one small step, and this is the day, as you pointed out, this is the bride's day, this is the citizen's day. It's one day where you feel like you have some measure of say in what is happening in the country.
I mean,
and you're taking it away from them. So that should be the priority rather than security. I think what it really demonstrates very, very clearly is that the state is here to protect itself. Security, it's still a security state. It's not a democratic state.
No doubt. And I want to actually ask Ammar, because we've been saying throughout this election coverage that Pakistan needs political stability so it can get the the economic mess sorted, right? I mean, with this kind of an election and the kind of election day we are witnessing, whoever comes to power, whatever coalition there is, are we going to get that kind of...
I think it's going to get worse because there is no clarity. Again, as you said, there is no transparency, and whoever comes will never be able to justify why they are there in the first place. So the elections, as we all know, are tainted at this point, and this will lead to more problems, if not less, and that will lead to more economic volatility, which means higher inflation, higher prices and everything. So we're not getting out of this mess anytime soon. There was this little hope that maybe we will get some stability, maybe we'll have some fair, some transparent elections, and some semblance of stability may come, and eventually we can have 2 to 3 years of relative stability. I don't think we are getting those 2 to 3 years anymore.
So we're looking at a minimum of just 2 to 3 years of stability, and that's the best we can hope for.
That's the best we can hope for. I mean, if history is provides any guidance, the max we can go is 3.
So we had Ammar, we had Miftah Ismail with us yesterday, right? Former finance minister. And I asked him to indulge in some positive thinking. And I said, those who have tried to manage this election allegedly, they also have to rationalize it to themselves why they're doing it, right? Because they always like to think we are doing it in the best interest of the country. So a possible scenario which I presented to him was, let's say the biggest party from Punjab gets to form the government. It's a coalition government. They have to share power with the army. And there is SIFC. Everybody's already signed on to it. Pakistan will go back to the IMF because unlike Imran Khan, these people are saying, no, look, we need to be in the program. We have successfully managed to avoid a default. The dollar and exchange rate is now relatively under control. Over the last 6 to 8 months, we have incrementally brought some macroeconomic stability, and we need to stay the course. That is the best case scenario, right? Now, despite, let's say, a sham election, right, is that something they would achieve, and could that take Pakistan out of the mess and put it on some kind of a journey towards economic stability?
That's the thing. That's the best case scenario. And it would be a scenario where people's rights were not violated. So we're completely ignoring the fact that a lot of people simply could not vote or just did not know. So people will be angry with whatever decisions there. If it was a fair fight, if someone would have voted, if let's say today telecommunication was fine, everything was fine, everyone voted and a decision was there, people would have, okay, I voted, it did not work out that way, then so be it. But right now, there's always a saying, I tried voting, I could not vote. They just shut this down so that something can happen according to the way. So now, the people are, I would say, angrier than they were 6 months back.
And anger needs an outlet, right?
Yeah.
And who's going to be the channel for that outlet? I think is a big question as well. So just in terms of the sort of politics, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, as it may well be, is obviously this is their voter would have the most, I think, anger to express.
It's the best case outcome for them because they just now have more fuel to carry their, let's say, campaign. Because if elections would have been fair, they wouldn't have that right to, okay, you know what, elections happened, everyone got voted out, then so be. But now there's just more fuel to the fire.
Fuel to the fire, but at the same time, there's two sort of factors we have to keep in mind. The organizational structure of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf is in disarray. There has, post 9th May, and arrests as well as raids and all of those reasons, there's also fear as well. So that anger would not have the outlet, and we need to think of an outlet in an institutionalized way, right? Which is we think of it as parliament or a political party that can demonstrate and, peacefully and all of those things. So now we have bottled up anger. That's the way I see it.
So the frustration among the young voters or women or pro-PTI voters will simmer in the short term because now they have been sort of essentially disenfranchised. But the rest of the parties, which get a power share in the National Assembly, in provinces, they will accept the results because everybody's getting
something out of
a small piece of the pie, right? And they will say, we can live with this election, right? So we can say...
They said that the last time as well, and they cried foul in the last election because they were the victims, right?
They were the victims.
But they accepted it because the argument always is we don't want to derail the system because what's coming next is worse.
Yeah, but initially they did not accept it. If you remember, Fazlur Rahman had dharnas, People's Party also dragged its feet, but then when they were assured that everybody will get some share, they accepted it.
No, but if you remember, what share did they get? Eventually what you saw was arrests. Shahbaz Sharif in jail, everybody in jail, left, right and center, everybody's being thrown in jail. So they weren't getting a share of the system. I'd say that they had accepted, and these are conversations I've had with many of these people post the 2018 election as well. It's like, well, we want the system to continue, and we accepted it. And we think that the best forum for this is Parliament. And if we're in Parliament, we can manage something. And you saw that eventually. That, despite all the arrests, they saw an opportunity, obviously a weak spot when Imran Khan had his little tussle over the ISI chief appointment, as well as other disagreements with Imran Khan and the military that have been on the same page for a while. And they saw a constitutional opportunity through Parliament, right?
So by the same token, I would agree with Ammar that PTI and its supporters will have to wait at least 2 years until the extension of the army chief, when that stage comes, if there are possible points of division between the coalition government, the civilian and the military, that's an opportunity that Imran Khan should be focusing on. And much can happen obviously between now and then, but I think the calculation seems to be that we want to see Pakistan through this crisis until then, and if everything works well, because now the army leadership is working with experienced people who have already suffered jails and exiles and everything, and they are predictable, more predictable than Imran Khan was, right?
Yes.
So the expectation and the hope is that we can work with these people. We know
here's
them.
my fear, because as we know with Imran Khan, there was the hope that there would be a long-term partnership to bring some stability to Pakistan so that,
You can be more than 3 years.
Exactly. Now, look, well-connected anchors, columnists, journalists such as Suhail Baraj are now talking about another next 10-year plan. There seems to be another experiment in the making.
Well, I mean, we've seen how 10-year plans, pan out in Pakistan. That's why I think maybe thinking about 2 years is more realistic.
10-year plans are so 70s and socialist.
Even though Pakistan does need long-term planning in almost every reform that we want to bring about, but we live day to day in Pakistan, on ad hoc basis. We are busy firefighting and crisis, lurching from crisis to crisis. I would say, and again, now we are not discussing the election day, we're discussing the future scenario.
We are. We've sort of moved on, because now I want to
there's not much to talk about it.
I want to point out that there is a lull because election results are slow. As Shahzeb also pointed out, that you're not getting direct correspondents aren't able to send in election results on time. We don't know what their sources are. And it is that lull period where we want to see more polling stations and a better sense of what the trends are, because trends can flip once you have half the results from half the polling stations, even on one constituencies.
So I mean, but we've been predicting all the polls, public surveys, official leaks that PMLN and Nawaz Sharif's party is the biggest party, right? So if we're now talking on the assumption that his party will emerge as the biggest party in the future scenario, and again, my biggest concern is, will the new coalition bring stability that we need? Will they be able to sort out the economic issues? It seems to me both major parties are relatively in agreement when it comes to IMF, sharing power with the army on SIFC. And there seems to be that consensus.
Well, yes, because it was under the PDM government and Shahbaz Sharif.
They passed it,
birthed the SIFC.
So that understanding is likely to continue, and the question is.
But could there be a surprise here? Is what I want to say, because we're banking on independence. Maybe some of them could be pressurized to join political parties, but could there be a surprise in which, I think the sort of trend that was being predicted, or the narrative that was being projected, was that, Nawaz Sharif, 100 plus votes. Not sure if that's going to happen yet. I'd still like to hope that there would be some surprise, or maybe not, I don't know. But at the same time, if Nawaz Sharif has also been very clear, he's going to come in with a clear majority. He doesn't want no part of no coalition.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's coming with a clear majority. It would be a broken alliance, and that's like the best alliance you can do if just the king party or the king wants to retain control. So that's like the best outcome for them. If everyone's just broken, you've got independents, they're not really a part of any party. They can align with one or be not. I mean, imagine the number of independents in the parliament will suddenly be too high, and they don't really have any specific political alliance after getting into the parliament. So it's entirely possible for them to move around.
Stop here because Shahzeb, who is on Dawn TV as an anchor, is being called into the TV broadcast now. So we have to let him go.
Okay, thank you. Good talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That was really
thanks,
insightful because we got a sort of direct feed on how correspondents are struggling to send in results, which apparently, for now, are much slower. And I want to sort of remind everyone about 2013 when it was Nawaz Sharif. There was also a trend in 2013 because initial results show that the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, which was hoping to ride on the tsunami, was actually in the lead. But very quickly, suddenly, things switched, things changed, and by 8, 9 o'clock, very early on in 2013, Pakistan Muslim Nawaz won, and Nawaz Sharif actually made that very famous speech from Model Town, I believe, and I'm maybe forgetting at this point. But at this point in time, just as in 2018, it's kind of unsure. There is a weave that has been created, I would say, for sure, whether it is through polls, whether it is through headlines.
Just noise.
There's always a wave, Ammar, but I'm not sure if I can entirely predict what's going to happen this time.
No one can, considering after today's events.
No, for instance, in 2013, I know that there were a lot of people believed very strongly that Imran Khan, this was his first chance. But I didn't think personally as a
But at least a close competition.
But it was close. And even now, by the way, even Punjab, for instance, which is obviously key, we can still predict that it's going to there would be close contests. So that holds true. But in 2013, I think the incumbency factor for the Pakistan People's Party, Imran Khan was still wasn't ready to make it to the prime minister chair. We could sort of tell. I mean, I feel like it wasn't such a huge surprise that Nawaz Sharif won, even though Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf and Imran Khan, said it was rigged. Even so, 2018 as well. What happened to PMLN? There was also a popular sort of PTI wave. You could kind of predict that they would win whichever way. Can we predict?
We cannot predict anything at this point.
I mean, you're the numbers guy.
Nothing can be predicted. Nothing can be predicted
really?
At this point. I mean, it's just that's the thing.
So this is a less certain election.
So there is no clear majority. No one's getting a clear majority now. In previous elections, there was someone always with a clear majority. Right now, there's no one with a clear majority, and with so many independents, you don't know which side.
Yeah, but they can always be pressured. I mean, look at what Jahangir Tareen managed to pull out post 2018.
Yeah, that's the thing. So there's always this hung parliament where they can move to one side, and 6 months later they can move to another side. The parliament will be more hung than ever.
And that was kind of what happened to Imran Khan.
What happened to Imran Khan? Now imagine 5x more worse.
Yes.
It's 5 times more worse because those were your standards that independents that were always there. Now suddenly there are too many independents right now. So they just can move in any direction.
Because this is also, just looking at the numbers, it's also possibly the first election where you have, obviously because of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf being deprived of its symbol, which is first election in which you have such a large number of independents.
Yeah, and they can flip either way, and they can flip every 6 months. So it's a hung parliament. No one has a clear majority at this point.
And even 6 months down the line, because what we can also anticipate at this point in time, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf was supposed to hold its intra-party elections on 6th February and decided to cancel it and decided to delay it. I mean, they need the symbol in order to contest for Senate elections. The Senate is coming up next, by-elections and local bodies elections in Punjab, which are also coming up. And I know I keep looking to forward to the future as well. But that it means that this uncertain status of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf is not necessarily going to hold as well. There will be a party maybe at some point where they hold inter-party elections and it satisfies the election commission.
Don't know that shit. Whatever works out. So yeah, I think it's interesting. There's no clear majority. There's no clear winner here.
Okay, so just looking at some of the close contests, and I sort of circled a few here, some of the interesting ones at this point in time, which is a key one is going to be D.I. Khan, which is Maulana Fazlur Rahman versus Ali Amin Gandapur.
Yeah, I mean, as an independent, right?
As an independent.
So
as an independent, but who's also popular. Maulana Fazlur Rahman, this is an important election for him as well, because he didn't win as many seats last time. Was on the streets in 2019, and I remember I covered those long marches as well, and was not in favor when post 2018 was not in favor of the other parties. Being in parliament, he wanted to take it up. So this is an important election for Maulana as well. So that's an important.
That's an important one.
Punjab Lahore is going to be interesting because you have now Nawaz Sharif
or independents, or many independents,
or independents, or Dr. Yasmin Rashid.
Yeah.
And Dr. Yasmin Rashid, obviously incarcerated, could not campaign. Has again popular support as well. I mean, I again followed her election campaign in 2018. And she did very well. She lost out to Kulsum Nawaz when Nawaz Sharif was disqualified. That's when Maryam Nawaz campaigned. But you can see how things flip, which is also there's that sympathy who gets out to vote.
So I think this one can actually determine whether PMLN gets a majority or not.
Really? You think that this would be a thermometer?
That would be the thermometer. That whoever
Lahore, Yasmin Rashid versus
Nawaz Sharif
loses
his seat.
That'd be huge. I mean, he couldn't vote for his own party.
Exactly.
He was forced to vote for On Chaudhary and the IPP.
So that is the thing. If that flips, the entire thing just flips out.
But I think also just sort of the kind of, I would say, bitter victory this would be, even if PMLN wins and is able to get the 100 plus seats or the simple majority that they seek. It is a bitter victory, partly because of the way that these elections have been conducted today as well as prior to this. And in many ways, I mean, the compromises. Think of the compromises. I mean, I think it's pretty symbolic that Nawaz Sharif couldn't vote for his own party and was forced to vote for On Chaudhary, who was affiliated, who was very close to Imran Khan, was kicked out, joined IPP and Jahangir Tareen's party, and On Chaudhary, by the way, was an advisor on the PDM government as well. And I noticed, by the way, so when the footage of Nawaz Sharif and Maryam Nawaz was being shown, On Chaudhary was attached to Nawaz Sharif like I don't know.
You're hedging your bets at this point.
No, but he was watching it. He was actually watching Nawaz Sharif vote because I felt like maybe he wasn't sure.
He wasn't sure that
Nawaz Sharif was going to vote for him or not. But I want to say that there's a lot of compromises that Nawaz Sharif would have made if they make it to power, if they're able to form the majority for the government that they want.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Now, I mean, can they even get numbers to get a simple majority?
At this point, it's
without coalition, without independence, that's
it seems very doubtful.
It's a very, very
doubtful. And I feel like, my sense here is that because of the experience that PMLN and People's Party had working together under the PDM, and let's not forget, their coalition didn't work out in 2008 either.
Yeah.
Because they were.
It cannot work. Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, it cannot work.
Why?
These are the only two big parties left, right? So you cannot just merge them together and call it one big party.
Yeah.
So I think it just cannot work. They just work in two different directions. I mean, People's Party outside Sindh, will it be able to perform? That's also a question. Will it be able to get enough seats to...
Here's another close contest that should be interesting, which is Bilawal Bhutto Zardari versus Ata Tarer, again in Lahore.
Yeah.
I think that's a one that should be worth watching. I don't want to rely on the initial results.
Too early to say anything.
Too early to say anything, and I believe this is again at Lahore. I don't have the ascendancy, but that's another. I think, as you said, that the Nawaz Sharif versus Yasmin Rashid constituency is a kind of thermometer, a gauge.
Yeah.
This would be important for Bilawal if he was to be able to get a fair number of votes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying seats in Punjab, but votes. Because I remember the last time, TLP actually did better than Pakistan People's Party in Punjab.
Yep, that's a big thing. And I don't think People's Party can do well there. It may improve, but can it win seats? Really doubtful.
But also, let's think about this, because if we're looking at forward, again, we don't know this for sure. Bilawal has also positioned himself as the anti-Nawaz or the anti-PMLN party or candidate, which kind of works because it replaces the PTI.
Replaces the PTI. It fills the PTI vacuum.
But not enough, I would imagine.
Not enough.
Yeah. So what other contests are you sort of looking at that are interesting?
I think this Model Town. Model Town, Yasmin Rashid and Nawaz Sharif. That is something that's going to.
I'll be honest, I think I'm also looking at Khaja Saad Rafiq and Sardar Latif Khosa, and that's NA 122. That's another should be interesting one. So Khaja Saad Rafiq, as we know, Sardar Latif Khosa has just recently joined. He was Pakistan People's Party, lawyer, has been very vocal in these challenging legal times for the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, and recently joined. There's also a question of whether he's still in the People's Party or not, and he is among the brigade of lawyers that the PTI trotted out because so many of their people were either
in different cases incarcerated,
incarcerated or on the run or had left the party. But that's another one. Khaja Saad Rafiq has won his constituency, lost it in the 2018 election, but then re-won in the by-election. So he's done well because it's an interesting area as well. So it combines your typical, I would say, PTI supporter, affluent or upper middle class, but also combines more slum areas. And this could be an interesting harbinger or indication for me personally as well, because it is Latif Khosa, who is new to PTI but has been, supporting them in this Khaja Saad Rafiq, who may have traditionally won, but maybe things have changed. So that's another contest.
That's another interesting.
Which one? What other contests do you think you're looking at?
Karachi, Mustafa Kamal.
Yeah.
Baldia. That would be an interesting.
Do you think that's a slam dunk for Mustafa Kamal?
Let's see. That is a thing. Whether MQM gets it or not. I mean, if Mustafa Kamal is coming on that seat, it must be a short victory. So if it's not, then that's a bigger problem. So I think that will be the thermometer for Karachi. Let's put it this way.
You think that is a constituency that would be the thermometer
for Karachi.
Okay, all right. So another interesting contest, I think, is the Amir Haider Hoti. This is Mardana. I may be getting this wrong. Let me just sort of check as well. That is that. So that is KP, and that's Amir Haider Hoti versus Atif, who was the education minister, I believe, for PTI. Because we keep forgetting the ANP.
I think they've put themselves in a position where people are forgetting them. And if anything, PTI has done well in KP. They have done well in KP. The numbers are good. The overall service delivery is good. So I do not see a reason why even an independent would lose out there.
Okay.
ANP is still, I would say, campaigning on rhetoric at this point.
No, but you have to understand that the ANP is a progressive party that has lost so many people because of terrorist attacks.
Yeah, but then again, as we said earlier, there are a lot of young voters out there right now
Who've forgotten about the ANP.
Yeah, who don't even know about ANP, just like people don't know about MQM.
No, it's absolutely true. And I'll give you a sort of anecdotal example here. We're not just talking numbers. But I recently went around KP a couple of areas. So I went to Peshawar and Sawat, and I was actually conducting trainings at universities. And one of the exercises that I was doing as part of the training was around elections, and it was misinformation, but also, to be honest, I've been a journalist, so I like to get a sense of what people are thinking and what young people are thinking. And what I did was that I showed them pictures of prominent political leaders in KP. And I will say that I think in Peshawar makes sense. There's still memory and recall of ANP and who the people are within ANP. Not so much when you go up north a little bit. It's all PTI.
That's it. And just like MQM, anyone who's turned 18 in the last let's say 10 years or post 2015, do they even know who MQM is? They don't. So a big vote bank has never seen.
It's so hard to imagine.
It's hard to imagine. I mean, 2008
because
MQM was massive.
was loomed so large in
2013,
Karachi,
massive.
Hyderabad,
8, massive.
In national politics.
But does anyone who's been turned 18 in the last 10 years or since 2015, do they even know who MQM is? They don't. So I think that we keep on forgetting the young voters who are joining, who are becoming voters. I mean, I'll talk about my daughter. She's like 9 years old and she doesn't know who MQM is. Like, okay, but she knows
She's 9 years old. Why do you expect her to know what MQM is?
She knows what PTI is. See, she knows what PTI is. She knows who Imran Khan is. So that's the thing. Now imagine. Now, the same thing extrapolated over all these age, anyone who's less than 25 years old.
My counter argument to that would be, I actually agree with you in that in many ways. PTI and its use of social media, young people, the kind of sort of digital politicking that they've done very successfully has, entered people's consciousness. It's a part of. It's not just a part. They're not just a part of, I think, politics, but also culture as well, right? So. I completely 100% agree. But at the same time, let's also remember that MQM and ANP, these are regional parties. Why do we expect a 9-year-old to know who MQM and ANP is?
No, even in Karachi, which, I mean, when we were kids or growing up, everyone knew who MQM was. Okay. Because you could see MQM. Now you don't see MQM. People can't even recognize the tricolor flag anymore. So that it's about recognition, right?
Okay.
And it's just slowly fading out. I mean, in Karachi, 9-0 was a thing. Azizabad was a thing. 9-0 doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it's been dismantled.
It's been dismantled. Where does MQM head office is? No one knows. So 9-0 was a landmark earlier. It just doesn't exist anymore. So I think that's the thing, just slow dismantling. And PTI has picked up that vacuum.
Sure, but here's the other counter argument that's being made, and I'm not saying I'm predicting anything. What is happening to the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf is probably bigger in scale, but it echoes what happened to MQM.
Yes.
And I'm not even. It's not a PMLN. It's MQM.
100%. But what PTI did well was essentially revitalize.
Which might not happen to them versus what happened to MQM, right?
They revitalized the youth.
Yeah.
They engaged with no other party has been able to engage the new voter.
They didn't take it lying down, which is good.
No other party has taken that up.
Some unofficial and unconfirmed results, and I just want to point out that these are results that are from 9:45, right? And I'm not sure how many polling stations they're from. Probably around by this time. Again, I want to be really cautious here.
Yeah.
About 20%.
20% max.
20%. So, but still, it starts to give us a little sense. So, another important contest, which is obviously Barrister Gohar Ali Khan, who is jisko namzad Sarbara kehte hain after the inter-party polls were cancelled. He is in the lead with 3,507 votes, while Abdul Rauf is behind him with 1,912 votes. Yasmin Rashid, and here we were talking about this being an important one and maybe a barometer of sorts. NA 130, Yasmin Rashid ahead with 3,029 votes, followed very closely by Nawaz Sharif with 2,507 votes. I mean, this is, as I said, we've talked about this being an important barometer. Votes could switch. We also know that these are going to be closely contested. It won't be that easy, whether it's Yasmin Rashid or Nawaz Sharif. If it's really easy, I think we'd have a better indication of what the barometer is. NA 151, Meherbano Qureshi, daughter of Shah Mahmood Qureshi, who's been convicted of the Official Secrets Act, under the Official Secrets Act, couldn't contest elections. She lost, incidentally, in a by-election, but at this point in time, I want to say unofficial, provisional results. She's in the lead with 10,729 votes, while Abdul Ghaffar has 7,813 votes. That's a decent lead at this point in time, with 20% polling stations in. Khaja Asif is currently leading with 6,979 votes, with Rehana Imtiaz Dar trailing behind with 5,452 votes. It's also very close. Also, a little bit of background on Rehana Imtiaz Dar. She is the mother of Usman Dar, who was very prominent Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf leader, and his interview in which he's denouncing the party in the 9th May attacks also became pretty famous as well. His mother also, there were lots of videos in which the house was raided and broken down, and there's been obviously a big spat. This is a feud that's been going on since 2018. This is very close, and Khaja Asif actually won by a very small margin in 2018 as well. He's in the lead at the moment. So NA 119, again, another important one. This is important for Maryam Nawaz. So Maryam Nawaz is in the lead with, this is a very small number, 736 votes.
Just one polling station, I guess.
Exactly, this is really small. So I wouldn't say this is an indication at all. Shahzad Farooq. So Maryam Nawaz, let's talk about Maryam Nawaz since we've just seen where she's running. This is her first time contesting. At this point, she was the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz's voice of resistance when they were in trouble. She also campaigned for her mother when Nawaz Sharif was disqualified, and Kulsum Nawaz, the late Kulsum Nawaz, and won that election. She's had mixed results in terms of, she's a crowd puller, as they say, but that doesn't always necessarily mean that her party gets votes as well. But she's a crowd puller, and she makes headlines. So this will be an important one for Maryam Nawaz. And speculation, will she be chief minister, is still ongoing as well.
Yeah, you got to win this election first.
Yes, and she's contesting, by the way, I want to say that she's contesting from a provincial seat as well as a National Assembly seat. So both.
So I think if you see these early results, like in very early, when it's basically split at this point.
So when as soon as it becomes bigger leads and bigger numbers, that's when you know that there's a trend.
So they just split right now.
Yes.
You've got Nawaz Sharif who's trailing.
It could go either way.
It can go either way. It's still too early right now. That's why I guess mobile networks are still down.
Yeah, mobile networks. That one has really hurt.
Yeah.
That one has really hurt. So that is some of the sort of other big contests that we're looking at. I think with Quetta, I was looking at Quetta. Quetta is another place that we've heard from lots of reporters and correspondents. Violence turnout has been low. We've had a lot of complaints about not getting a level playing field from the nationalist parties, particularly at Mengal. There's been lots of complaints from their party and other smaller parties about how polls were conducted as well. But Quetta 2, NA 263, so Mahmood Khan Achakzai from PK Map, as well as versus Rubina Irfan Bap Party. Want to talk about Bap Party?
Yeah, that I think will essentially influence who the kingmaker wants the king to be.
Yeah, but I mean with Quetta, Quetta is obviously Balochistan, and again I've travelled very recently a lot in Balochistan and Quetta and spoken to a lot of people, and I remember the conversation in Balochistan because everybody was talking about the caretaker prime minister being from Balochistan, the Senate chairman from Balochistan, the chief justice of the Supreme Court being from Balochistan, and yet it doesn't see it isn't reflected in the power that the people of Balochistan have. Not just because they have the smallest numbers in terms of National Assembly seats, but also just look what happened to Dr. Maharang Baloch.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a long debate.
So really just a lot for show. Let's just say.
Yeah.
These are appointments, people who are for show. But that does not mean that the people of Balochistan are...
Their voices are being heard.
Yes.
They're not, in fact. Let's be very clear about it. Their voices aren't being heard at this point. And they may be there, I mean, they may be we may have a prime minister, chief justice, senate chairman from Balochistan. But does that really translate into better economic prospects for people in Balochistan? I doubt that.
Yeah. But there's been effort. So Balochistan is also, in a sense, a barometer of the way the establishment is thinking. The Bap Party was formed after, several people from, this is just before the 2018 elections, which you saw was that the government basically dissolved and they quit PMLN. PMLN was in a coalition with nationalist parties at that time as well. And very key, I think, Sarfaraz Bhutto, former caretaker interior minister, joined the Pakistan People's Party. So do you think Balochistan is also uncertain, unpredictable, or do you think we know where it's going?
I think we know where it's going. It's not that, I mean...
It's not rocket science?
It's not rocket science at this point.
Yeah.
Who controls Balochistan?
No, we don't. I mean, that's different. That's a different question here. But the question really is, so a lot of pundits have been saying that JUIF may actually get a few more seats from here.
Yeah, that's possible.
That's also possible. I think the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, again, the party structure wasn't strong enough and candidates just dissolved. At this point, it's actually a fight between, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of Balochistan, is it going to be PPP that gets to have some say in Balochistan?
I think yes.
Or is it going to be PMLN?
PPP.
And that's a big question.
I think that will be PPP.
Okay.
PPP will make a government in the provincial with some of the independents.
Well, obviously,
some of
independents,
yeah, but
JYF.
PPP will have definitely more influence than PMLN there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's some of the other ones. Now,
I think another interesting one that you may have missed is Farooq Sattar and Khurram Sher.
Yes, I'm actually sort of getting to that, and that's actually where I should have voted had my vote been.
So that's that's where the urban youth vote will actually determine who's going to win, because that was a very core MQM seat back in the day. MQM's won like a few times.
Yes.
And then you had PTI winning it.
Khushbakht
Shahzeb was
won that seat.
Won that seat, and then PTI won that seat last time.
Yes.
It was a very close contest, and now this time around, let's see, because a lot of the new voter will be voting. Khurram Sher Zaman will be voting PTI or independent.
So.
A lot of your inner city voter, because a lot of your Burns Road and all of that's also that was normally MQM, but let's see whether
the lines areas also.
Lines areas, but let's see whether they keep voting for MQM or not. And then you've got the MQM London factor here as well, because that also has an influence on those inner city areas.
Yeah, but I want to know. So, what do you think? Did MQM London just throw a spanner in the works, or just wanted to get its foot in the game?
I think they always do that in different types of elections. They always
boycotted the last election.
It's just more of nuisance value than anything else, and that just creates a vacuum for other people to pick up.
Right. Okay.
Because the core MQM voter basically doesn't turn up.
Okay. All right.
And the youth voter, I think it will be interesting to see the demographics of the area, how they have changed in the last census, and how many more, let's say, people are now eligible to vote there, because a lot of those would essentially be PTI voters.
Yes, that makes sense, because they've obviously, as we spoke, Pakistan Tehreek Insaf with young people in particular, they've filtered through the consciousness.
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
They have brand value.
Whenever we look at historic data, we forget how fast our population grows and how fast the demographic completely changes. That the number of people who are now eligible to vote, and who is getting the lion's share of that new vote. It's none of these legacy parties, it's PTI. Because the legacy parties have not made an effort to connect with the new voter.
So, okay, let's talk about that while we're sort of waiting on more results to come in, and I'm sure that we're going to hopefully, watching them on TV and getting some of those initial results and seeing more of a trend and pattern emerge. But connecting with young voters, I mean, I think that's a given. Let's not talk about, we know the Pakistan Tehreek Insaf speaks the language of young people. It has connected with young people. It has more brand value and recognition with young people. But what do these legacy parties have to offer as well? And I just want to sort of, let's talk through that, because we saw Nawaz Sharif deriding a certain segment of the youth, calling them mummy daddy,
See, that sort of thing.
That obviously sets their heckles up. I've seen a lot of
you're alienating a big voter base this way.
Yeah.
And for example, MQM are fairly strong youth in terms of APMSO.
Yeah.
But APMSO isn't that strong or influential anymore that it was maybe 10 years back. So that thing is going down. A lot of that APMSO voter, whoever's the new kid is coming, is essentially voting for PTI now. So again, they are losing that charm because they're not able to connect, and they're still stuck in those good old days.
But okay, so let's just talk about Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. And I've interviewed multiple people, and I haven't formally interviewed Bilawal Bhutto recently since I've been out of journalism, but I met him a few times. And the consensus, even within people, so for instance, Khaja Asif, I remember on one of my shows, that, well, he's the future because he's young. That's his advantage, is that he's young. And that's how he's pitched himself at this time.
He has, but the party hasn't. The party is still the old guard.
I'm bringing fresh ideas. I'm the one who, so I wrote this manifesto. Come to me. I'm young. I understand.
And then his father comes and just derides him.
No, but okay. So again, so what does Bilawal or the Pakistan People's Party need to do?
Just appeal to the new voter. They're already doing that. They're already doing that. They are doing that. So props to them.
Through the medium of Bilawal.
Through the medium of Bilawal. But
so where's the barrier here?
But can People's Party separate itself from its legacy? There's the two legacies here. One is the whole Benazir Bhutto legacy, and the other has the post.
And as we understood, obviously, there's a huge generation that doesn't know Benazir
That doesn't know Benazir Bhutto.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of People's Party still continues to bank on that.
But वो भुट्टा को जिंदा तो रखते हैं in the sense of
that is fine.
There's
a
lot of digital videos that they've created using archival footage. I've seen some of the stuff that they're doing, which is
their media campaign was really good. I think we were talking earlier that they did a very targeted campaign of People's Party.
Yeah.
But does the voter really connect with them?
Okay, here's my take on it. Here's my take on Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. I think Bilawal Bhutto does. I've even heard of some PTI's voters who've said, well, he's not that bad a choice just because he's anti-Nawaz, right? So there's some concession there that he is kind of the future, although they're not ready for him. At the same time, I think you say that it is a Zardari legacy or legacy politics that sort of is a barrier for Bilawal Bhutto Zardari to be able to appeal. I also think it's also appeal, don't you think? Because there's that X factor as well.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So other than Bilawal or maybe Murtaza Wahab, great guy, overall,
yes.
I mean,
and also young.
Also young.
And not a. I know that his mother was a politician with People's Party, but still not
wonderful
Dynastic,
guy.
Exactly,
So
and active.
What else does the People's Party have to offer? Because again, anyone who's living in Karachi, they can see infrastructure deteriorating over the years, and they know there's literally no one else to blame other than People's Party for that. So as we were talking earlier, it said rained on People's Party's parade. It literally did rain on People's Party's parade.
Yeah, that was bad timing.
So one thing that People's Party did really well in Karachi was revive urban transport.
Yes.
A lot of the green buses, a lot of the red buses, excellent stuff.
That's where pink bus
you just
well
need
for women.
Tons of more. You just need more of that.
And I want to point out, because there's always pointing out a lot of the negativity. The buses are full.
Buses are full.
Using them.
As far as we need like 50 times more buses.
Sure.
If the provincial government
too late. We can say that it started too late.
Even if the provincial government can deliver 50 times more buses in the next, obviously we know it's going to happen in the next 3 to 4 years, next elections. Even if they do that, I think People's Party can appeal to the young voter. So that's what I'm
just transport, you think?
Transport. This is where you start.
The Shahbaz Sharif model.
No, that works, right? That worked for them. But this is even better.
Because here's the other.
So Nawaz Sharif model is basically motorways, right? And they've been
transport. If you think about it, we get
infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
So PMLN has been banking on infrastructure since the 90s. People Party does not have any infrastructure to follow. If you say, give me one infrastructure project, People's Party, Turnout, fantastic project. Okay?
Yeah.
But
and their model is public-private partnership.
Public-private, great. They do wonderful.
And that's what Bilawal has been pushing.
They do wonderful stuff. But
for instance, Gambat the health.
Gamba Health, SIUT.
SIUT is
phenomenal stuff. But does the voter even know that's happening? So maybe that's a communication gap there. So I can give you wonderful projects. Turnout, fantastic project. A lot of energy work is being done in Sindh. People just don't know. A lot of health work is being done in Sindh.
No, but I mean, what people will remember and young people talk about is the health card, and that's associated with the PTI. Even though I want to point out that
that's great communication.
Even though PMLN started in
PMLN started, People's
but
Party communication is bad. So in People's Party communication, you live in the area, you know, whenever there'll be like People's Party, there'll be like 8 different pictures of 8 different people, 2 of them who have passed away. That does not appeal to the young voter anymore. That does not.
It memes then?
That does. PTI won't do that as a communication strategy. You won't have 8 faces.
Yeah.
You won't have 8 faces. You'll have 1 face. That's about it. You won't have 8 faces of the guy who's the counselor, of the guy who's like was the ex-president, of the guy who may be the future president. You know Min Janeb, right? So that does not appeal with the young.
Min Janeb culture.
So that does not appeal to the young voter anymore. So People's Party done some wonderful stuff, but communication is an issue. Horrible at communications.
Right.
And infrastructure.
But then we've been trying. Okay, so now that's the Pakistan People's Party.
Yeah.
Bilawal has potential. They need to improve their communication. I kind of agree with you there. And also just improve governance. I think just in terms of infrastructure in Sindh, there's a lot of
there's a lot that can be done there.
And needs to be done.
Yeah.
But okay, let's go to the Pakistan Muslim Nawaz. Again, this is a popular sort of story that they give laptops and they have the infrastructure projects and they think they're appealing to the youth. But I can't think of I think Atta Tarar is the exception in terms of who I think of as a young PMLN.
There's no
leader.
one else. It's a family party at this point.
It is a family party.
It's a family party.
And speculation about so imagine Shahbaz Sharif is Prime Minister, Hamza Shahbaz is Chief Minister. Even now, the speculation, if PMLN comes to power, it is Nawaz Sharif as Prime Minister, Maryam Nawaz as Chief Minister, or Shahbaz Sharif, Ishaq Dar Finance Minister. That's not going to appeal to young people.
Why will it?
But what appeals to older people is obviously the whole. It's the family values that they project. It appeals.
Yeah, it does. But it's time that older people retire. I mean, we basically have governments of geriatrics at this point.
Yeah.
And
I mean, look. I mean, all the leaders of all the barring Bilawal, who is in his 30s, they're all past over 70.
They're past over 70, and they just cannot connect with the new voter anymore. And that is where the PTI keeps on filling in the vacuum. I mean, I don't know how many new voters came. I think our population right now is what, 230 million. 5 years back, maybe it was around 210 million. That's 20 million people have increased. So at least
over 60% are under the age.
Yes, at least 10 30 million new voters have been added. 10 million is a massive number.
It is a massive
10 million new voters came and no one's really talking about them. No one's appealing to them. No one has a plan to appeal to them. They don't care motorway Lahore mein bani thi. It exists, no one cares. What are you going to do in future?
I mean, I saw some ads, and this is too much, too little. I saw some PMLN ads on television that were humorous. I think there was a Chinese couple that somebody was taking around, which I thought was funny.
They tried really hard for that. And it just shows they're trying really hard and it gets cringe.
A couple of ads does not equate leadership. That's central leadership that's included, as well as programs and as well as focused contact and engagement with the young people.
So the collection of independents formerly known as PTI, I think you can call them that now, it's like the artist formerly known as Prince. They did wonderful in terms of reaching out to the young voter. You can send a message to Imran Khan on Instagram and you'll get your vote count.
Yeah.
You can just go to a certain website, it'll tell you exactly where to go, what to stamp. No party execute that. So their social media wing,
they use GitHub.
Their communications,
they know what to do and where to do
their
it.
communications wing essentially run by young people.
Yes.
That's why they can connect better. Everyone else's communication wing is run by geriatrics. That's why they can never connect. They'll just take out full page ads in newspapers. I mean, we're just sitting in a newspaper building right now, but PTI did not take out a full page ad.
There's shock and horror. How could newspapers do this? It's the economy stupid.
PTI did not take out a full page ad because that's not high impact. High impact is direct access to the voter.
Yeah.
So they know how to spend.
And you can do that through
money.
social media, right?
Exactly. And those are young people running their communication campaign. None of these guys have even a moderately functional social media team. People's Party has still invested in it. They still have something to offer.
No, but I know that the PMLN has also invested in, communications team, digital.
So there are two things. You can either invest in them, you can hire people to do it, or you can have volunteers who do it for you.
Yeah.
And PTI has a lot of just volunteers doing it for them because they believe in the cause, and that is where the real meat comes out.
Yeah. But I mean, in order to believe in the cause, you need to have that ideology. So,
hence, that doesn't exist in any other party.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, I've never been a fan of PTI, but what they've done, they've at least engaged the youth in getting things done. That is something that, that's props to them. No one else has been able to do that. They're still living in the 90s. All policies of PMLN and People's Party still from the 90s.
But I also want to go back here a little bit in the sense that you said about the new sort of politics. It's still Bilawal. Bilawal has complained about it on the floor of the assembly. He said he addressed Zardari, he addressed Nawaz Sharif and Shahbaz Sharif, like, what is the kind of politics or the legacy that you're giving to us? And sure, we can question the fact that it's not his to be given on a platter. But anyway, but that is the example that you've set, and this is how you've been part of the game that's been rigged in favor of this old school style of power politics. And I want to say again a caveat: it's not like PTI doesn't play old school politics. Sure, it appeals to younger demographic. It's kind of cooler as well in that sense. But that new, let's take this election as an example of why the new style of politics always runs up against a state that is more resourceful, more powerful than these young voters.
And it always will, but eventually
it is the political parties that need to do it, right?
Yeah,
that's my thing.
The political parties need to do it. See, that's what I think. Even without a symbol, with so much disenfranchisement,
yes,
if people are still going out and voting, there must be something happening.
It's the ideology.
There is no more than the ideology. Someone is there to galvanize the support. Ideology is there. I've got a certain ideology, but someone needs to pull me out of my bed on a holiday.
Okay, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree with it because there is obviously galvanizing support and channeling that support is really important. And I think PTI very successfully and I think credit to the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf that despite the challenges, it's managed to do that. I mean, even if you look at the 20% of polling station results that are coming in, Gauri Khan, whether it's Gauri Khan or the close contest with Yasmin Rashid, I think it says something. But I think more than that, at this point in time, it is anger, it is defiance, it is about the ideology more than the mechanics or the ability to.
Even then, that's just galvanizing. I'll just talk about myself.
Okay.
I never vote. I never vote. I've never voted. Largely because I was either not in the country or was too lazy or I just never voted. This time around when I woke up, I didn't plan on voting.
Okay.
And when I woke up, I was like, the mobile networks are down. I'm just going to vote out of spite. I'm just going to vote out of spite at this point. And even then I wasn't able to vote.
Right.
But I knew even then, and
you couldn't get to vote because your polling station was dysfunctional.
Exactly. Even then, the only thing I knew was that brinjal is the symbol that everyone's talking about. So I'm not a PTI voter, will never be.
Captured the imagination.
But even then, somehow through constant noise, through constant passive messaging, I knew that brinjal is the one that we all need to be talking about.
And here's my question to you then, and if we're taking you as a representative sample, right? Here's my question to you. Do you watch television?
No.
So this is all through social media.
Everything.
Which is across, let's be very clear, we don't have numbers on this because in Pakistan, I think audience survey numbers in terms of the consumption patterns are sporadic and not enough.
No one watches TV anymore. Even
does.
conventional TV.
And I do this all the time. So again, because I do a lot of trainings with large groups of people and a lot of young people, my first question is always, how do you get your news? And
social media,
easily.
WhatsApp.
I want to sort of put a number on it because I want us to be more specific, but very easily I'd say 90% among young people is going to be social media.
It is social media.
A few will raise their hands because they're in media mass communications departments and say, well, we read the newspaper, there'll be one hand up.
Yeah, that's good to know.
But even with TV, 3, maximum 3 or 4.
No one watches TV anymore. And see, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not a PTI voter, but even I knew brinjal is the one that I need to look out for. Obviously, I'm not going to do that, but that's the thing. I'm not a voter. I knew about it.
You're very apologetic about the Bengan. Bengan or Bindi?
Bengan. So that's the thing, right? They just reintroduce Bengan. Bengan, if they can make Bengan happening, they can do a lot more stuff. That's just galvanizing support.
So interesting story in as well, which is that the KP government actually hired a lot of young people, spent a lot of money to promote their work.
Yeah.
And that became a bit of a scandal as well.
Because they shouldn't have done that. That's a different story altogether.
But it's part of the same story because there are volunteers and there are also people then when obviously they benefited, these volunteers. And I covered this story, by the way, so 2013 as a reporter, my story then was, well, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf uses social media better than any other political party.
And still
the
does.
The story has not changed.
And
that story has not changed.
11 years later, it's much better than anyone else.
Exactly. So leaders, first movers, and nobody's caught up or not bothered to caught up. What I want to say here, the question here is, it isn't a different story because a lot of these volunteers then obviously got, benefits, and they try to do it at a more institutional level.
That's People's Party model right there.
I mean, yes, and it became a scandal.
As it should, because again, at the political party level, it's fine. But then you institutionalize it
under head of youth, internship scheme or something.
Yeah, but if you institutionalize it at a provincial or national level, that's not right then, unless it's like open merit and properly done. So that's the whole People's Party model right there for you. I mean, they've been doing this since forever, PIA. And a lot of state-owned enterprises are a classic example of this plaguing us. And the whole politics of the 90s was about providing jobs. And that's why all of our state-owned enterprises are in a position where we can't do anything about them.
Okay, so that kind of brings me to another question that I can actually ask you. Because, again, results are still coming in and can't rely on them just yet. And I'm sure there's more out there that you probably can get on social media. Social media, not entirely reliable, but I would say websites of various media organizations. But privatization was one of the key things that the caretaker was trying to do. It was one of the sort of tasks, as I understood it. I had lots of conversations that I've had with this. Also spoke to Fawad, who was caretaker prime minister, privatization minister as well. And the sense was, from the various people I talked to, was that before the next government comes in, before the elections, a lot of these, the state-owned enterprises would be wrapped up and the sale and the deal would be done and the contract signed. That didn't happen.
It cannot
happen. That didn't happen. ECP struck it down.
No, even if ECP,
even though there's been a lot
let's assume ECP did not strike it out.
Yeah.
Even then it wouldn't happen because you're very complex entities. You'll take at least 2 to 3 years. You'll need just 1 year to understand how many employees are there and how many assets does that entity have.
Wasn't that their job?
They don't know. That's the thing.
No, what do you mean they don't know? Because,
one
would assume that Fawad, who was caretaker, privatization minister, knows his job.
Yeah, privatization
and he
minister.
had a lot of time because that caretaker time was
Privatization minister can know its job, but then let's say you're privatizing
pretty capable guy.
An electric distribution company. He may be the best guy in the world, but they're eventually dependent on the electricity distribution company to provide all the data and to provide all the information. And that's a big blocker right there.
Okay.
And you will have tons of political appointments there who would not want that to happen.
So there'll be resistance.
There'll be a lot of resistance. So you need strong political will right from, let's say, the ground to make that happen.
Strong political will and also a strong government.
And a plan.
We don't know, and a plan. And at this point in time, looking at the manifestos, we're not sure about plans and political will at this point. Election results are still coming in. Stay tuned to Dawn English. The election transmission, we sort of move away from the result transmission as well and sort of give you a lot of insights from people at Dawn and context and experts like Ammar who talk about the economy. Thank
you. This is Dawn News English.
सकता है कि इसके बाद मुझे मौका ना मिले आपसे मुखातिब होने का।
The arrest of former Prime Minister Imran
investors came out in large numbers.
Pakistan-China friendship is irreversible.
तारीख में पहला इलेक्शन था।
3 U.S. government facilitated convoys.
How soon do we expect the government to roll
How the budget for the financial Federal Minister for Defense, Khaja Mohammad Asif.
How long was the next side at my house?
The case of State versus Zahir Ahmed and others.
I think that it's highly appropriate that on this day,
the President may impose emergency.
Will they be able to handle the issue? I don't think so.
Pakistan has always said it's prepared to talk about all issues.
Pakistan as a country has seen all sorts of crises.
People of Pakistan should be expectant of
the menace of terrorism in Pakistan.
This is obviously an act of defiance.
There's never a dull moment in Pakistan.